Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Monday, July 14th. We are here. We are live. What a pre-market we are having right now that we are looking at. And one of the main assets that I'm looking at, but I'm sure everyone else is Bitcoin. Folks, I fell asleep last night, I think at around 10 p.m. Bitcoin was at 118.5, something like that. I ended up waking up at 2:30. I don't know why I woke up at 2:30. Maybe it's because I wanted to check the price of Bitcoin, but I woke up at 2:30 a.m. Eastern. And for some of you guys, that might have been morning, early in the morning. For some of you guys, that might have been late at night. But I saw Bitcoin at 122. And then I think I stayed up to like 3:30 before I fell back asleep. And we saw 123. So pretty incredible right here. We did hit 123.265 overnight. Right now it's at 121.864. I mean, 120, we hit it. 120 is a big milestone for Bitcoin, $120,000 per Bitcoin. But it's here. And as a result of it being here, we've got some of the proxies that are having fun. Robinhood in the pre-markets is holding 100.80. I think we're going to close at 100 today. I don't think we've had a single $100 close yet. Or if we did last week, it was taken away very easily because of the Florida investigation or a bunch of random stuff. So I think it's hard for Robinhood to stay below 100 when Bitcoin's doing what it's doing. Robinhood also got upgraded today by JMP Securities to $125 a share. So we'll talk more about that upgrade. But that hopefully gets us that $100 close today. NVIDIA right here, 165.43. That's doing well. SBET, the Ethereum Treasury, that's up 15% in the pre-markets. Tesla right here up 1.19%. Misty's up 1.76%. MicroStrategy, Sailor bought some more Bitcoin. We'll talk about that. That is up another 2.69%. I mean, when you talk about risk-on assets like a Bitcoin, Ethereum above 3,000, Coinbase up 1.65%, Google slightly flat in the pre-markets. Bitcoin is that risk-on asset. And, if we were talking about a sort of boring summer, just based on trading volumes going down and, maybe the markets, at least for the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, kind of chilling out a little bit because they had such a good run over the past 2 months. Bitcoin steps up to take the challenge of making the summer more exciting. And we do have earnings seasons coming up this week, which is going to be very important as well. We don't have any main earnings today. Tomorrow is when we really start the bulk of the discussion on earnings. But regardless, it seems like Bitcoin has stepped in and said, you know what? Forget about earnings season. We are going to show the world how exciting we can be. And as a result, crypto as an industry is getting more of a bid. Bitcoin right there, 121.8 on the day. Pretty exciting, dude. Pretty freaking exciting. Yes, Nebius was upgraded to $68 by Goldman Sachs. That one I think is up 7% pre-markets. That's up 7.4. So that one is getting some love. We got a lot of upgrades and downgrades this morning as well. CrowdStrike got downgraded a little bit by JP Morgan. That stock right here down about 2.5%. The entire cybersecurity sector taking a hit. Rocket Lab got a $55 upgrade, if I'm not wrong. I'll pull up the exact name of the firm. But they got upgraded to 55. That's at 39.16 right here. It broke through 40 last Friday. We'll see if it has a chance of breaking that again. But you got a lot of names that we'll be looking at that got some momentum in the upgrade and downgrade space. And then we'll keep going from there. CoreWeave is up 3.7%. I don't think CoreWeave got any upgrade or downgrades, but Nebius getting a little bit of a price target. Usually it follows CoreWeave. It looks like CoreWeave is actually following Nebius today. And that one getting a little bit of love. S&P 500 right here up 0.23%. NVIDIA 0.28%. Tesla 317. Palantir 142. And then Robinhood 100.92. Grab as well getting some momentum in the pre-markets at 505. You got SoFi right here 21.45. AMD 145. S&P again 622. Google 179.99. Just below 180. Amazon 225. We have an update on AWS Prime sales. We will talk about that, or Amazon Prime sales. Meta right here 716. Grab 505. And then you have Tessie right here at 317.3. BMNR is halted in the pre-markets. That is correct. I don't know why. I mean, it's up like 5% before it got halted. I don't know why exactly it got halted. Maybe there was too many people trying to buy it going. I don't know. That's kind of weird. So I imagine this will get unhalted. I don't know when, but that is a little weird that it got halted in the pre-markets right here. But it's an incredible pre-markets, dude. I mean, I don't know if we expected Bitcoin to be as aggressive as it was today, and that's going to have an impact across all risk-on assets. And quite frankly, it's eventually going to have an effect on the broader markets, because it's hard to have risk-on behavior as aggressive as it is, and you have markets kind of sell off. I mean, obviously they could, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about in regards to tariffs, Trump, EU, Canada, all that stuff. We touched on it a little bit last night, but we'll go deeper today. It's hard to be that bearish on the general macroeconomy, but then have a risk-on asset like this do what it's doing. So I think we'll definitely see some impact on the broader markets, but over the course of the next few weeks, we're going to get a better understanding of it. BMNR says news is halting. News is pending. Okay, so I guess we'll see some of the news. I guess we'll see some of the news right here. I'll keep it open on my screen as well to make sure we see. Oh, we just got it from Tom Lee, literally 30 seconds ago. Here we go, folks. We got the news. Here we go. BMNR doubles their ETH holdings to 500 million. Wow. Oh my. Private placement on July 9th, 250 million of ETH, and they raised 250 million. So that's 500. 3 trading days later, you have 550 million of Ethereum, 163,000 tokens. CEO of BitMine said, clearly Wall Street is getting ETH pilled. Whoa. There's the press release right here. BitMine now holds approximately 500 million of Ethereum to advance its Ethereum treasury strategy. Since closing on the 250 million private placement, we have surpassed 500 million in Ethereum holdings, which validates our mission to increase our stake in the Ethereum network, says Tom Lee. We are pleased that we added significantly to our ETH treasury just 3 days after closing our private placement. Clearly, Wall Street is getting ETH pilled. Tom Lee furthers, among Bitcoin treasury companies, we have witnessed the reflexive benefit of acquiring large holdings. MicroStrategy, the leader, has accumulated more than 600,000 Bitcoin. Such sizable holdings has created a sovereign put on the company, meaning a nation state views MSTR holdings as attractive if a nation ever wanted to acquire 5% of the Bitcoin network. Similarly, Ethereum treasuries, which accumulate 5% of the ETH supply, can benefit from a similar Wall Street put. And even Vlad Tenev, CEO of Robinhood, recently said tokenization is the greatest capital markets innovation since the central limit order book, showing how Wall Street is converging onto crypto, and Ethereum is the layer 1 blockchain with the greatest share. Okay, so that stock is still halted. Folks, Robinhood passes 101 in the pre-markets. We will see when BMNR opens up what that means. I would imagine it means higher. If they're going to increase and double their holdings to 500 million. SBET is already moving. That one is not halted, but that one was up a little bit yesterday in the pre-markets. That one, or in the overnight markets, that one now up 15% in the pre-markets. Wow. So BMNR 500, almost basically half a billion of Ethereum. $500 million of Ethereum is what they decided to raise this morning. So I guess that was the news. Once it gets unhalted, we'll see how that one trades, but I would imagine that one's going to begin trading a bit higher. Speaking of a little bit of coverage on Bitcoin, we got Pomp on CNBC talking about Bitcoin all-time highs, and then we will get into all of our headlines that we got going on in these pre-markets.
Here is the founder and CEO of Professional Capital Management. Good morning to you. I guess, as Joe said, if you're going to get to 250,000 or 500,000, you got to cross 123 at some point. But what do you think is happening? What's driving it right this moment?
First of all, welcome to the greatest show on Wall Street. I think that Wall Street's full undivided attention now is on Bitcoin. And really, there's 3 things that drove this move. The first is that there's been record inflows into the ETFs. So last Thursday, 1.2 billion, second highest day. Those ETFs now collectively have over 140 billion. BlackRock's fund is now almost $90 billion in about a year. They went from not having a Bitcoin ETF to now they have a top 20 largest ETF in the world. So there's a lot of inflows there. Second thing is the options expired at the end of Q2. And so all that downward pressure on Bitcoin obviously goes away. That helps kind of like a beach ball getting put underneath the water, right? Obviously it can pop back up. And then the third thing is that there was a lot of short sellers. And you started to see that build up. And as they got blown out, as Bitcoin ran, you get into this price discovery phase. If you go back to November, we went from 70,000 to 90,000 in about 2 to 3 weeks. And 70,000 was a new all-time high. What we're watching now is we broke through that $110,000 range. That was the previous all-time high. I don't know if it goes to 140, but it sure is going to make a big move here because you are in a true price discovery phase.
And how much of this do you think at this point then gets driven by ETFs, or do you think it's really more going to be individuals buying the underlying asset?
Well, the reason why I call it the greatest show on Wall Street is everyone wants Bitcoin. Like, this is no longer a contrarian trade. This is a consensus trade now. And so you have the ETFs, you have the Bitcoin treasury companies, you have retail, you have sovereign wealth fund. Everybody wants Bitcoin.
Should we be scared of that? Meaning, we were talking about just economists and analysts were like, when the economists have a consensus view, you usually should go the other direction.
Yeah, well, the economists still don't like Bitcoin, so I think we're okay. But if you take a look at, the S&P, everyone wants the S&P, right? And so what you want is you want persistent, kind of price insensitive buyers. And that's finally what Bitcoin has. And it's not just coming from retail investors, it's also coming from these institutions. And I think that'll continue to drive
Does
the
it
price.
matter what Congress does anymore?
I think that Bitcoin has always been a decentralized asset that really didn't care what anyone else did.
But part of the bullish, this was in friendlier administration, friendlier Congress.
Oh, it definitely helps. It definitely helps, right? If you had to choose.
Is the bill going to pass?
Is what?
Is the bill going to pass, the one that's pending?
I think that the bill will pass, but again, the bills, most of the bills are actually not addressing Bitcoin in particular.
Right.
Stable coins, market structure, things like that.
General crypto universe, though.
Yeah, look, obviously having an administration that created the strategic Bitcoin reserve, leaned into Bitcoin, I think is a very bullish element, but I don't think that Bitcoin was going to go down or not work if the administration wasn't positive on it.
You see Superman named his dog Crypto. I'm not kidding.
Should have named it Bitcoin.
No, it's with a K.
With a K
Different.
after kryptonite.
Yeah. Why would Superman name his dog after kryptonite?
To prove that he can try.
No, maybe it's after Krypton,
Oh, yeah.
the planet.
Probably what it
Probably
is, the planet, yeah.
after Krypton.
I got a
But
question.
which of the bills,
Oh,
like
go
there's two bills that they're focusing on. There's one that's probably easily going to get through. The other one
Yeah.
will require help from Democrats.
Yeah.
And where do things stand on that? That may be a heavier lift.
So what's really interesting, I interviewed Patrick McHenry a couple weeks ago, and what he said is they split this. It used to be one idea. They split it into two things because he thought it'd be easier to get the stablecoin thing through first.
Right.
He actually thinks that they should put them back together now, that their support, and go ahead and get it approved. I don't know if that will happen, but I just think that there is so much momentum around this that it becomes a situation where there's more pain rather than anything if you don't support this. Like, it is very obvious. I tweeted right before I came on. Warren Buffett is sitting on 5% of the treasury market. Boomers are buying up bonds. Young people are gobbling up as much Bitcoin as possible. What do you think young people care about? They don't care what happens in the bond market nearly as much as they care about what happens in the Bitcoin market. And so I think that politicians are not stupid. They understand that the future constituency that they have
Wait a minute.
cares about this sector, and they're going to lean in.
Politicians are not stupid. That's quite a statement. Can you prove that?
You pick which ones you like and which ones you don't.
Anthony, I don't know if you want to weigh in on it, but obviously we just had Bob Diamond and his colleague on 2 minutes ago. The idea of whether custody for coins should be living inside of a Coinbase style, somebody else doing it for you, effectively like a bank, if you believe that without the FDIC insurance, I should say that up front.
Yeah.
Or whether you should effectively own it yourself, put it under your mattress with some kind of protections around it if you believe that there are.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's different people in the market. Now, the hardcore Bitcoiners, right? And I fully believe in self-custody. You should have the right to, and you should learn how to actually take control of those coins, be able to move them, hold them, secure them, et cetera. And so self-custody is a key part of Bitcoin and the value proposition to the world. At the same time, we live in a real financial regulated world where there's a lot of investors and LPs that are not going to let a fund manager or a public company have, a CEO who's walking around with the private keys. And so there are going to be these qualified custodians, third parties that people use. And so it goes back to, what are you optimizing for and what are the limitations placed on you? Again, a public company is very different than an individual. I think individuals should go learn about self-custody. We should also recognize that public companies are in a different situation.
And these treasuries from public companies is really what's creating the momentum for the Ethereum and Bitcoin treasuries, just because they have more operating leverage to do things with their Bitcoin or Ethereum via a treasury strategy. So Bitmine has not officially unhalted yet. Robinhood right here at 101.2 in the pre-markets. NVIDIA 165. NVIDIA has been over 4 trillion for about a week now, and it looks like it's going to hold that level. Tesla right here at 316. BMNR still halted. We will see when it unhalts, but that was the news that we just got. 500 million of Ethereum has been now placed on their balance sheet. And the Ethereum treasuries are beginning to become big on Wall Street. Bitcoin treasuries have been big, but Ethereum treasuries are starting to get momentum. Speaking of treasury strategies, Mr. Saylor has bought more. MicroStrategy has acquired 4,255 Bitcoin for 472 million at 111,000 per Bitcoin. Bitcoin's at 121, so they are up on that Bitcoin. They now have 601,000 Bitcoin on the balance sheet. They acquired that for 42.8 billion. The fact that he even was able to create the financial engineering over the past 5 years to get that 43 billion to buy this Bitcoin is incredible at an average of 71,000 per Bitcoin. I mean, Saylor's the definition of violating your cost basis and just like not caring because you want more exposure. And eventually, if you think, Bitcoin's going to, I think his target is like 14 million a coin or something, then it probably doesn't matter if your average is 60,000 or 30,000 or 50,000. It just matters that you have more of them. And so that's what Saylor is doing. Bitcoin, pretty incredible stuff, man. Absolutely incredible stuff. If you are exposed to it either under the underlying asset, the ETFs, Robinhood, Coinbase, MicroStrategy, the Bitcoin miners. I mean, all of them are catching a bit of a bid right here. And one of the things we looked at last night, which I was also surprised by because I didn't see this data, we had 2 days of billion-dollar inflows on the ETFs. Once on Thursday, 1.1 billion, and then on Friday you had 1.029 billion. So you had $2 billion enter into the ETFs. This is one of the things that's different from the previous cycles when we had collapses on Bitcoin upwards of 70% back in 2018 and 2022, which happens every 4 years. So 2026 supposedly should be that next year where Bitcoin takes a massive downfall. You didn't have the ETFs. You didn't have Saylor buying like you did. You did not have BlackRock. You did not have the Saudis and the Chinese and all these different institutional investors that were propping it up. Now you do. Now you do. And it is pretty incredible to see Bitcoin have this momentum and, you know, the impact it has on the broader markets. Robinhood right here, 101.42. I mean, dude, she wants to go higher. I think she wants to go higher. They got an upgrade today to 125. Devin Ryan, who will be on my show after Robinhood's earnings, he's been one of the most bullish analysts since this thing was $8. He called it a generational company today. Like, I think if Bitcoin's doing what it's doing and you're going to see the growth in the equity markets that we've been seeing across the entire board, that's really good for Robinhood. So I think she is going higher. Google right here, 179, SoFi, 2140. And then you got NVIDIA, 165. All right, let's talk about some of the tariffs because we do have some tariff updates. The EU, Mexico, and Canada got 30% tariffs on Saturday. Do I actually think we're going to have these tariffs? Not really, but August 1st is the new day that Trump is saying we'll have these tariffs. And maybe he's negotiating, maybe he's not. But here's the coverage on that, and then we'll keep going from there.
Again, the president vowing to impose 30% tariffs on all of their exports to the U.S. as soon as August 1st. Now, we did hear Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum and the head of the European Commission, that's Ursula von der Leyen, both vowed to continue negotiations with the U.S. in the hopes of reaching a deal by early August. But von der Leyen also warned that the EU will be ready to retaliate with their own tariffs by early next month if the president moves forward with this threat. Now, this follows the president's threats against Canada on Friday. And then given the duties he's already imposed against China this term, take a look here. All 4 of the U.S.'s largest trading partners, together they sell about 60% of everything the U.S. buys from abroad. They are or will be facing tariffs of at least 30% by early next month if all of this holds. The question, though, does remain whether these will actually be imposed in a few weeks or whether they're a negotiating tactic. Here's what Kevin Hasset said about that yesterday.
These tariffs are real if the president doesn't get a deal that he thinks is good enough. But
these tariffs are real if the president doesn't get a deal, which means they're not real because the president is obviously trying to get a deal. Now, if we don't really get a deal and we implement these massive tariffs on our biggest partners by August 1st, I think they will be short-lived because I think Jay Powell will be like, okay, well, now you're definitely not getting your rate cut. So I think this is a last-ditch attempt by Trump and the administration to finally get some type of a meaningful deal. And they've got about 3 weeks to see if we can get that done.
You know, conversations are ongoing, and we'll see where the dust settles.
The president later in the day addressed the same idea. And he said when it comes to these deals, guys, the quote was, maybe I'll change them, maybe I won't. Guys.
Well, but that's been sort of...
I mean, dude, August 1st is going to be a hell of a day because that's going to be when we figure out how this ends up playing out for the administration. I don't know. That's my mini Black Swan event that I'm putting through, that maybe he is serious on August 1st and he does introduce higher tariffs, which obviously would not be the best thing in the world. But, you know, the question is, how long do they last? And does he really want to tariff our best trading partners at those levels? I don't think he does. But, you know, if he does for a bit, then I guess we're going to have to ultimately see how this plays out. Why is Micron down? I have no idea. Micron is down 3%. Let's see. There's got to be some headline on Micron. Okay, here it is. Rumors suggest high bandwidth memory HBM could face potential oversupply issues extending through calendar year 2026, raising concerns about market balance and pricing pressure. So the headline is HBM oversupply rumor emerging through calendar year 2026. This is why, again, like the AI revolution is going to have beneficiaries like a Micron, like a Dell, like an SMCI. I think NVIDIA is kind of like the golden child for it. But if you invest in the derivative plays of NVIDIA, because all of these to me are derivatives of NVIDIA at the end of the day, based on the demand they're getting, you have to understand some of the nuances of their other parts of the business, which also include supply. And, NVIDIA cannot make enough of these chips to sell them. Micron potentially can make enough memory storage to sell, right? And if there is a supply-demand imbalance right there, that to the downside, then that could put some pressure on shares. The other thing that's important is Micron's still up about 35% year to date. So it's one of those stocks that is priced at a very high level. And if there's any headline that takes it to the downside in terms of their ability to fulfill what they need to fulfill, same thing with NVIDIA. We saw that with China. NVIDIA fell to 103 once we got rid of the China revenue. You know, that could be something that we definitely have to care about on some of these names. BM&R opens up at 50. BM&R opens up at 50. 47.70. Just hit 49.98. Now it's at 48. So there you go. 42 to 48. Last night it was at 37, folks. So you got to move from 37 to 50. Goodness, this stock is so volatile. When the options market opens up, which I don't know when it's going to happen. Hopefully soon, dude. I mean, the options market is going to be massive. This is what happened with MSTR. Once MSTR really had a thriving options market, you had so many funds buying more MSTR to fulfill the obligations on their options or selling, which is what created the volatility. But you had a thriving market for options and derivatives. And if that happens on BM&R, I mean, this thing theoretically is going to be one of the best things to trade or go long, go short. I mean, I don't know if this thing is going to have to go back up to 160. I imagine eventually it will. But the fact that what really will take that higher is Ethereum, right? Ethereum getting anywhere near 3,500, 4,000, I think will help it immensely. But the options market definitely will be a tailwind for BM&R. SBET right here is at 24.70. That's up 14%. Robinhood 101.5. That's basically all-time highs on Hoodie in the pre-markets. We got to see as it opens up in the actual market open, but basically right there, Robinhood 101.59 at all-time highs. AMD right here 145. S&P 621. S&P was actually down at 620 last night, so it's recovering a little bit, even though it's down in the pre-markets. And then NVIDIA 165. But anyway, yeah, on Micron, I think, if they do have way more supply than demand, then that is an issue for them, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, you only need as much storage as is needed for a lot of these GPUs. And if you have a ton of storage supply, memory supply, but you don't have enough GPUs, that means there's less supply for the actual, thing that people care about, which is the GPU. There might be more supply for the components of that GPU, like high bandwidth memory. And that could be a little bit of a headwind right here for Micron. Micron's still an incredible company. It's just, and we don't even know if this is a true rumor, but this is definitely the headline that's getting it hit right now in the pre-markets. What about Dell and SMCI? Are they getting hit? They're not in the memory space, but Dell is down 1%. SMCI a little bit down. We saw VRT and VST get hit last week because Amazon was coming up with their own version of liquid cooling. So like a lot of these derivative plays of NVIDIA are definitely sensitive to these headlines or incumbents doing the same thing, just because it might affect their supply or their demand. Vertiv right here down about 0.5%. Tessie 316 in the pre-markets. Okay, Tesla. So we do have a couple of updates on Tesla. We'll keep an eye on Bitcoin right here as it continues to be at all-time highs. If you're just joining this morning, good morning. Thank you for being here. Bitcoin 121.8. We did get to 123 last night, which was very, very exciting. Tesla has officially expanded the geofencing inside of Austin. And what you're looking at the screen is real. This is not fake. This is this is what Elon tweeted. This is the new expansion of the robotaxi geofencing in Austin, Texas. And, to me, I think they're doing this because you can tell they're having so much fun. Like, I think Elon's all of his tweets, by the way, this weekend, and I have a notification every time he tweets, all of his tweets have been incredibly rooted in Tesla stuff, not like politics, not American party stuff. So I think the market's happy about that. And then second of all, I think they're just having fun with it. And they're like, you know what? Like, we don't care. Let's just make some jokes about this because we know we're going to win. And if we know we're going to win, it's very hard for us to lose. You could call it a middle finger. You could also call it something else, but bullish on hymns. It is pretty hilarious, dude. I mean, that's basically Elon saying, I don't care what you guys say about me. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And I don't know. I think he's having fun. I will be buying more Tesla. Who knows? Maybe I buy it today. My range is 280 to kind of 330 as the range. Tesla right here at 317. I kind of want to buy it closer to earnings, but we'll see where it goes from there. I've said this over the past couple of days, but pretty much built out all the positions I want to build out in the names that I'm super, super bullish on. Tesla's the one that I have not built out the position, and I think it is time. I think after all of the shit Elon has said about Trump and politics, and for the stock to, maybe get to 275-ish at the worst of it back in June, I think the street has moved on from anything Elon says. I think they moved on from auto deliveries. I think they're ready for AI to take over the world and for Tesla to be the real world manifestation of that AI. Now, can they do it? That's the execution risk. But if they do, it gets very exciting for Tesla. By the way, Elon did tweet this last night as well. He said at 3:30 last night, Optimus 3 will have agility roughly equal to an agile human, responding to an Optimus video. And then he also said that he just left a Tesla demo late at night, and by the end of the year, there is going to be something very exciting. He said, just left the Tesla design studio, most epic demo ever by end of year, ever. Which either is going to be Optimus, it's either going to be a Roadster, it's going to be a new product, it's going to be a remember that van, that robo van they showed off? It's either going to be a more affordable vehicle. I mean, we have no idea what it's going to be, but it's going to be something. And I think Elon, even him just tweeting this, even if he's just like BSing, like the fact that he's tweeting about Tesla, which is what matters, and he's getting people excited about Tesla, regardless of what happens to the stock, you can tell he's back to caring about Tesla. At least that's what it feels like right here. And he's talking a lot about Grok as well. So it makes sense. That is the official. By the way, this is in the app, by the way. This is not a fake picture. This is like in the Robotaxi app. This is what Elon retweeted. You can see that is the actual geofence. Yeah, it's an upside down Tesla logo. Exactly. It's an upside down Tesla logo. It could be all of the above. That's correct. It could also be all of the above. Triple V, thank you for the $200 super chat. Mr. Triple V strikes again, and he is here. Thank you for being here. And thank you for the $200. This pre-market is probably very juicy for Mr. Triple V as he owns a lot of Robinhood. Where's UNH? I know his last big buy was UNH. UNH right here at 302. I think he bought it basically around this 302, 304 range. Oscar and Lemonade, those companies up a little bit in the pre-markets, but really got hit yesterday. Oh, by the way, Steve's got an article coming out on Lemonade. If you're a Lemonade bull, just prepare. Steve called me last night literally to tell me how much he's ready to squeeze the lemons. And yeah, he's about to go to town with this article. He's about to go to town. So yeah, if you're a Lemonade bull, just watch out for his Seeking Alpha article tonight. He is so ready to he has like beef with the Lemonade community because he came on my show 2 weeks ago and, he looked at the numbers and he was like, this company sucks. And the Lemonade community, bro, you guys came after him. Like you came after him for what he said. And then you kind of awoke the monster within. And now he's ready to just go to town on Lemonade. So that article will be dropping later today. Micron is down because of oversupply concerns, potentially in the entire HBM memory space. So that is why Micron is getting hit. Those rumors might be false, but based on those rumors right now for fiscal year 2026, the memory names, which Micron being the biggest one of, is getting hit in the pre-markets. So Triple V, again, thank you for the $200 super chat. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you being part of the show. And yeah, I mean, Triple V is very heavy in hood. I think his average is like at 35 or 40 bucks, close to 4 million shares. So a lot of momentum there. He's also in Grab. I think he bought 1 million shares back at 475. Grab right here at 504. The Grab thesis, I don't know if it breaks out before earnings or after earnings. I do know the call option volume on Grab has been incredible, but also the community online that I've been seeing organically develop on Grab is quite remarkable. It really is quite remarkable. I mean, these are not just people that are pumping it for the hell of it. These are people putting out real due diligence. Every day I see 3 or 4 new accounts that are just like looking into the story. And that's what I want to see as someone who's trying to see if there's like a real long-term thesis on the stock that other people are also seeing along with myself. And I think that's happening with Grab. And as a result, I think it's just inevitable. Their margins are going to take some time to inflect, but eventually when they do, retail is going to, jump on pretty aggressively. The toots are already in 82% ownership. And hopefully, we get to see this one closer to $10 in about a year. So that's what we got on Grab. All right, Kevin Hasset is on right here live. Let's see what he has to say about some tariffs and if he can give us some more clarity on if these tariffs are going to be implemented or not. But here he is. This is the White House National Economic Advisor discussing tariffs.
Or should it operate independently?
Oh, the Federal Reserve should be independent. The president has the right to voice his opinion. And the bottom line is that the Federal Reserve has been very, very wrong on this tariff issue. They've been saying it's going to cause inflation, saying it's going to cause inflation. And they've done that while the European Central Bank has been cutting rates a lot because inflation appears by everybody's standards to be just about under control. And so think about it this way.
But Europe doesn't have the
Fed has
economy
yet-
that we have. Kevin, Europe doesn't have the economy we have. We're in a much better position.
If you look
with
at their
economic
inflation,
growth.
oh, I'm sorry, Dick. If you look
Go
at their
ahead.
inflation and our inflation, it's almost spot on. It's almost exactly the same number.
Right, but we have stronger economic
And it's come
growth
down,
than
and
they
it's
do.
come down. Yeah, but the growth is coming from supply side effects of Trump policies, which isn't inflationary.
Kevin, I'm
They get more
curious if you
supply,
saw.
the inflation goes down.
I was curious if you saw this Goldman Sachs report last week that effectively suggested that 40% of tariffs will be borne by U.S. either taxpayers and/or U.S. corporations, 60% borne by the foreign country and whatever businesses are there. Do you buy that in terms of what math have you done, and how does that compare to what Goldman Sachs is saying?
Well, I like. First, I haven't seen the report, but the numbers seem pretty wrong to me. The way I think about it, when you're thinking about who bears the tax, you need to go back to thinking about the intuition of it as if you're just in your economics 101 class. If I buy a candy bar for $1 and I put a 10% tax on it, then the question is, do I go in and have to pay $1.10, in which case the person buying the candy bar pays the tax? Or does the store say, oh, I'm going to not be able to get rid of all my candy bars, and so they cut it down to 90 cents and still sell it to you for $1? And it depends on the elasticity of supply in the end. Like if you have an apple tree with 100 apple trees, you got to sell 100 apples. And so the apple tree guy, he's going to bear the tax. And my view is, my intuition all along, I've said it on the show all the way back, really for many, many years, is that supply from foreign countries is pretty inelastic. So they're going to bear the lion's share of the tariff. And if you look at it, that's what's happened. That's what
Basically, he's trying to say Americans will not pay the tariffs, which, I mean, eventually the numbers are going to show how that's playing out. But this administration is trying to get the American public to realize that we will not be paying the tariffs. Other countries and companies will. I guess the numbers will show us in the next few months exactly what that looks like.
it's happened. And so I guess economics being what it is, maybe it'll change in the future. But so far, we're really 6 months in to an experiment that's working exactly the way the economic theory I described would say.
Just one other sort of point. How do you think about a lot of the CEOs who say, look, we brought a lot of stuff into the country early. One of the reasons we haven't had inflation yet is that we sort of front loaded the situation, and that we may run into a challenging time later when we have to bring in sort of the next set of goods potentially under a tariff regime?
Well, I think that the other argument that I've been seeing, Andrew, is that what's going to happen is that there's going to be big price effects now, but as we get more production into the U.S., then those price effects will go away. And so I think most people expected that if there were going to be a price effect, that it would be front-loaded before the U.S. supply chains adjust and more production is done into the U.S. So the fact that in the period where, in January, everybody was saying the price effects were going to be the largest, we've seen negative price effects. And so now people are speculating they're going to get worse and worse off somewhere off into the future. But I think, again, the best intuition for it is that they're taking a hit, that people are exporting into the country. And Americans have recognized that their friends and neighbors are better off when they buy the products that they make.
Yeah, our friends and neighbors are better off when we have more fair trade deals with them, but only if we can negotiate reasonably fair trade deals. And folks, this is the one thing that I'm a little scared about. The September rate cut probabilities on Monday were 95% last week. They're now 57%. Last night, they were 60%. They're down 3% overnight. So again, forget the actual substance of the trade deals, the perception of the trade deals to our Federal Reserve, which we cannot ignore because they are ultimately the ones that pull the trigger on a rate cut, are that tariffs are inflationary. I don't know how the hell you tariff 3 of our biggest trading partners, Mexico, Canada, and the EU, by 30 to 35%, and then act like the Federal Reserve's not going to feel that the expectations of inflation are going to go higher. Now, again, August 1st, I'm also calling a taco and thinking that Trump's not actually going to implement those tariffs. It's very hard for me to believe that, but let's say he does. There is no way in hell the rate cut probabilities become more likely if we do that. Even if they're only implemented for a couple of weeks, I mean, that has hundreds of billions of dollars of implications because we do so much trade with those 3 areas, EU, Canada, and Mexico. So, I mean, this graph right here tells you everything you need to know about the probabilities for the rate cut. And I think if we wanted a black swan, it would be these August 1st Liberation 2.0 tariffs, which I think if that tanks the market, Trump already is having a bunch of issues from his own base because of the lack of the release of the Epstein files. I mean, if he were to tank the market right here because of these stupid tariffs that we put on our biggest trading partners, which I don't think the American people are convinced after 7 months of debate that we're getting ripped off in some deal with Mexico, Canada, and the EU. Like, some portion of the base is convinced of that. They were like, that was really a hot topic back in March, April, May. Now I think people are just like, okay, can we move on? Like, are we good? Can we can we just get back to a normal economy with low inflation and goods and services that are being proliferated? And, we don't really know what the impact of the tariffs are going to be on inflation yet. We collected 27 billion of tariffs in June. What does that mean for inflation? No one knows. We're going to see in the numbers. We get CPI tomorrow, which is going to be a big one, because if that's hotter than expected and you still have these August 1st deadlines, I think a lot of people are not going to really care about tariffing the crap out of Mexico because of whatever reason Trump gives us. They're just going to be annoyed, because not only are the markets going to fall and retirement accounts are going to get hit, but people are going to feel like supply shock is going to happen and they're not going to be able to get the goods and services that they need as well. So it's one of those things where this is just not going to be a fun situation if we actually do end up engaging in these tariffs. And Kevin Hasset is not that convincing. I mean, saying that, the American people don't pay it, other people are going to pay. I mean, like, maybe. But even if he's right about that, how long is that going to take for the impacts to be seen to the Fed? I think it's going to take some time. And if that's the case, then markets are not going to be that exciting about how this plays out. Yeah, Mick calling Taco Tuesday. Well, is August 1st on a Tuesday? That would be so poetic. August 1st is on a Friday. Okay. So it would have to be a Taco Friday to hopefully get a delay in some of these tariffs. And even if it's not EU, Mexico, Canada, we have Libya, Iraq, we have all these other random countries at 15 to 30%. I mean, either we Taco Friday them on August 1st or they get implemented, which I don't know. The market's going to have some type of reaction to that if that does go into effect. However, outside of the tariff situation, the consumer looks like they're holding strong. U.S. online sales across all retailers hit 24.1 billion during the 4-day Amazon Prime Day period ending July 11th last week, up 30% from the same stretch last year per Adobe Analytics. That beat the 28.4% growth estimate. Bullish. Pretty damn bullish. Amazon says its biggest Prime Day run ever, with strong demand from Alexa devices, Ring doorbells, and other house brand products. Most shoppers stuck to essentials. 2/3 of items sold were under $20, and the average household spent $156. I mean, the first day was bad. Sales were down 41%, but because this time there was a 4-day sale versus a 2-day sale, you had the entire week. So some people probably were just waiting till the end of the week, and it ended up being 30% growth year over year. I mean, this is pretty incredible. This is pretty freaking incredible. JP Morgan says markets still bet Trump will scale back tariffs before August 1st. Yeah. I mean, Goldman Sachs also raised their price target today to 62.50. RBC had a price target raise. We'll take a look into that. But a lot of the Wall Street analysts are basically betting on a taco trade again. Otherwise, I mean, if we were really tariffing Mexico, Canada, EU by 30%, I think markets would be down a lot more aggressively than they are right now, which is, barely down right here, down 0.17%. But the consumer, based on these Amazon numbers, Amazon right here up a little bit in the pre-markets, along with Levi's, we saw that earnings was great. They beat EPS by 70%. They were up 15% last week. And Delta had their highest Q2 revenues ever in history. They were up 15%, which helped all the airlines, United Airlines, JetBlue, American, Southwest, etc. Those are retail-oriented names. Robinhood at 101 right here in the pre-markets. And so when you got retail sales, which we get on Thursday, the aggregate number, sort of being validated by Amazon Prime deliveries, being up 30% year over year. Then you got Levi's jeans catching a bid. You've got airlines catching a bid. The cruise lines are going to, I mean, Carnival had one of their best quarters ever in Q2 as well. It's just hard to imagine the consumer is that hit. And I know there's a lot of other narratives right here. I mean, I can give you some counter narratives of credit card delinquencies going up and auto delinquencies going higher, and credit card bills are not being paid in the most aggregate number of full dollars not paid since 1975, I think is the exact statistic. Like, that stuff is bearish. But then you also have all these other arguments that are rather bullish on the consumer. And it's kind of hard to draw like a real conclusion on what type of consumer there is. Nebius right here up 10% based on Goldman Sachs upgrading it to $68. I heard something on the Compound and Friends over the weekend on their podcast that I also think makes a lot of sense. There really is a world of two consumers in this market, right? There is one consumer that is like living paycheck to paycheck. And then there's another consumer that, because they invested in assets and their assets continue to go higher based on the market run that we've seen over the past couple of years, they can borrow against their assets, aka get very cheap margin loans, and they can live off the loans against their assets. And as their assets continue to go higher, they can use the loans to buy even more of those assets. And then when those go higher, their margin goes up and they're able to have even more money to live off of without ever having to sell the asset, which is, you know, the dirty secret on how rich people stay rich. They never sell their assets, they borrow against it. And when you borrow against it, you don't have to pay taxes because you're not selling the asset. There's no capital gain. So I mean, there really are two different consumers, because there's one consumer that doesn't even know that you can download a Robinhood and buy an asset, much less borrow against it. And then there's another consumer who either is super sophisticated or was just like, hey, I'm going to get interested in stocks. And they started buying and stocks started going up. And then they started getting sophisticated about financial literacy and realized, holy crap, this is a whole new world that I can get into and it could change my life. Brendan says, that's what I discovered this February. Mind-blowing. Your SB lock and mortgage one borrow for the win. Yeah, securities back loans, margin loans. I mean, all these different things that people can do to be able to pay for the other big purchases in their life without actually having to sell their assets. Because again, assets over time tend to go up, especially if you're invested in the right ones. It is kind of a game changer for the wealthy. And so there is definitely a bifurcation of consumers in this economy that I think eventually we're going to see in the data in a more mature way. But Q2 is going to be one of the first aggregate forms of data around the housing sector, around the retail sector, and then obviously technology stocks hopefully can maintain their momentum to kind of see, you know, what is the consumer looking like, and do we have a preface for a recession that potentially could come up, or do we have enough people spending enough money that a recession just seems out of the realm of possibilities that could end up playing out. If you're just joining, BMNR, the big headline on this, Tom Lee has now $500 million of Ethereum on the balance sheet. That's why that stock is moving in the pre-markets at $45.97. It almost was at $50. It's up about 14%. So that one is getting some green. Bitcoin right here, a lot of momentum, 121. It was at 123 overnight. I woke up at 2:30 seeing it at 122. So very, very exciting to see Bitcoin right here at 121 and crossing the 120 mark. Palantir right here at 142. Tesla, a bunch of updates over the weekend. Grok 4, Elon's getting really excited for this. Some Groks have entered into Tesla vehicles. I don't have the update yet, but when I do get it, I'll make a video talking to Grok and I'll show you guys what it looks like, but that is coming. Elon did say last night he does not support a merger between XAI and Tesla. So some people asked him, hey, would you support this? And he said no. So he does support a investment from Tesla into XAI. He said we'll hold a shareholder vote for it in November, but he does not support a merger between the two companies. And I agree. I don't think merging them would make sense right here. XAI should be independent and do its own thing. But Tesla investing in XAI, I think, would be awesome because, you know, it should be one of the best AI companies in our generation, and Tesla getting an equity stake in that just makes all the sense in the world. And Tesla shareholders having access to that via the equity stake makes sense. So hopefully in November, we're going to get that proxy vote and then see what ends up happening from there. All right, folks, here we go. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Let's see how this market opens. This is the start of the third week of Q3. Very excited to see how this plays out. Volumes have been down a bit for the past couple of weeks because it is summer, but we do have earnings coming up. We have crypto doing its thing, and we're going to see how the market can maintain its momentum. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is Monday, July 14th, 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. All right, let's get into it. Tesla opens up at 316.84. Tesla right here, 317.51. That one opens up 1.52%. Robinhood opens up at 101. Very nice to see some of that strength, obviously being led by Bitcoin. A lot of people will trade Bitcoin on Robinhood, so Robinhood tends to trade in line with Bitcoin as it continues to go higher. 101.05 on Robinhood. Palantir 143. Palantir goes green. Nvidia opens at 4 trillion, 165.15. SoFi 2130. Googs getting a little bit of a bid, 182 on Mr. Google. AMD at 145. That's red. Grab at 512. Not too bad. Above 510 is a Nice little level. If we can close above that, that would be very exciting. Grab right here at 512. Reddit 146, Amazon 225, Meta 719, Salesforce 258. That's green. PayPal slightly green. Elf right here is down. Elf's been getting hit over the past couple of weeks, but that one continues to go down. Apple right here 210. That is also down. We have some Apple updates that we'll talk about. SMCI 49.26. AppLovin at 346. Robinhood 101.39. Where is Coinbase? Coinbase very close to 400. Very close. The last time it was at 400 was during IPO back in 2020. So it's a 5-year journey to get back here. And if it does, that's pretty incredible. Wow, MicroStrategy 450, folks. 450 on MicroStrategy. Google's making a run, 183. She's not slowing down today. She's not slowing down today. Nebius got upgraded by Goldman to 98. Sorry, to 68. Eventually, hopefully 98. That's up 15%. I do have Nebius in my ETF, so we'll take a look at how that's doing. I'll bring up the upgrade as well, and we'll read exactly what they said, but that one's getting some love. Rocklab also got an upgrade today to 50. That's at 39.26. That's up about 0.5%. Palantir right here, 143.79. S&P very close to going green. Very close to going green. SoundHound is down 5%. Big Bear AI is down 2%. So SoundHound and Big Bear taking a little bit of a hit this morning. Google looks like she wants 185, dude. Looks like she wants 185. Robinhood, damn, got hit at 101. All right, so Robinhood, we got to get back to 100. So you see that big red candle right there, but now it's back to 100. So you got a lot of volatility on Hoodie going back and forth, trying to normalize 100 and stay above 100. Rocklab right there at 39. And I think it will, given Bitcoin's momentum, but you do have some people that are probably taking profits right there. Bitcoin right there, 121. PayPal, that's green. PayPal fell because of a JP Morgan fintech headline that fintechs have to pay for the data they get from JP Morgan. I don't even know how it implicates PayPal that much, but this was down about 7% on Friday. Getting a little bit of recovery right here. NVIDIA goes red. Interesting. Market's selling off NVIDIA. Yeah, Hood probably had to close the gap as well. That's also true. Market sells off NVIDIA right here. AMD was also red. Maybe that was a little bit of a leading indicator for some of the semis lagging. Micron, there's a rumor that memory storage, HBM, supply is too high compared to the demand. Micron is already booked out for all of next year, but if there's excess supply, obviously that means that other suppliers like a Samsung that also compete in the space could be able to pick up some of that demand, which means Micron doesn't have as much growth as the street was expecting. And that's why that stock right here getting hit down about 5.4%. Robinhood right back to 101. So it's being pretty resilient at $100. Palantir right here trying to go for 144, 143. SoFi getting hit below 21. SoFi goes red. SoFi goes red. TSM news. TSM is down 1.3. All right, let me see. Some of that TSM news could be affecting NVIDIA right now. Let me pull up and see what's going on with TSM. If there is any specific news here. I don't know. I don't see anything too crazy. TSM on Friday, they did have amazing monthly growth. They had 44% year-over-year revenue growth in the month of June. So that was bullish for TSM. There might be a different headline. All the semis are getting hit. Yeah, there has to be a semis thing. There has to be a semis thing that's hurting all these names. Iren right here getting a lot of love. That's up 7%. Marathon, another Bitcoin miner, that is at $20. That's up 7%. Clean Spark, that one is up 5.3%. And then Riot, all the Bitcoin miners getting some love. That's up another 5%. Grab right there at 512. Tesla 320. Tesla getting some love. Where are the semis? The semis are, wow, all of them down. TSM, Qualcomm, SMCI, ASML, Broadcom, Dell, Lam Research, and Micron. CoreWeave is up. That's weird. CoreWeave is up and the semis are down. Nebius is up based on that upgrade. MP is up as well. Yeah, they got a big stake from the Pentagon last week. That's up another 7%. I am trying to see some of this news on the semis. I don't see it yet, but we'll try to get an update on that. BMNR, is that moving? That is moving. 21%. There she goes. Ethereum, Tom Lee now has 500 million on the balance sheet for BMNR. And that's what's creating some love. Robinhood back to 100, Palantir 143, and then Tessie 319, kind of chilling in that 317 to 320 range. HIMS is flat, if I'm not wrong. I don't think HIMS is moving like crazy. HIMS right here, yeah, 47.70. HIMS is basically flat. European Union is preparing additional counter tariffs on imports from the U.S. worth 72 billion euros, EU Trade Commissioner says. Now, the European Union, the president also said on Saturday that they're not going to initiate the tariffs until the end of August. So they're giving a little bit of a delay for more time to negotiate, which is fair. Which also makes me think we're going to get a deal done with them. So hopefully those counter tariffs are like in theory, but they're not actually going to be implemented. Marvell right here down about 2.1%. MicroStrategy continues to go higher at 350. Google 181. Google got hit at 183. Grab broke above 512, so that's at 513. And then S&P 622.93. What is the semi news, folks? What is the semi news? Taiwan defense drills? Could that be what's causing it? Taiwan defense drills? Dude, China better not freaking invade Taiwan during this bull market. Dude. They better not mess up this entire bull market. Oh my gosh. I think it's inevitable that they will. I mean, even the Taiwanese people say it's a question of not if, it's when. I just hope we get to delay it for as long as possible, because I mean that would just be. I mean, China would be hurting themselves if they do that as well, though. So it's like it's you know, I mean, it's like it would be destroying their economy, which already is not doing well. So I would hope the economic pressure is a reason they don't do that. Google right here, 181. Grab 515. All right, Grab's trying to have some fun right here and getting some momentum. NVIDIA 163. Again, all the semis getting hit. UNH right here, 301.79. I don't see any specific headlines on Taiwan or drills, but that could be something that's playing out. Well, we do have this headline from Wall Street Journal last night, how China's military is flexing its power in the Pacific. That could be one of the things that is a headline that's causing it. But I think there's something more specific on the semis. NVIDIA right here, 163.88. Google 181. Salesforce 260. That's green. Steve will be buying more Salesforce today. He came on Friday, gave us the bull case. I think he's right. It's undervalued. I don't know if it's the best buy in this market, but I think he is right that it's undervalued. Bitcoin right here, 121. So he will be initiating a Salesforce position. Oracle right here, 227. That one is down about 1.2%. ABCL, is that green? ABCL is up 4%. Not bad. VIX is up. Looks like some of the semis are causing VIX to go up. Palantir, she's making a move. We hit 145, folks. We did. We got rejected at 145.70, right back at 144.60. So we broke through 145. Would be very nice to see if we can get back there. We got to 129 3 weeks ago, and it's kind of been stuck in that range ever since, but now trying to make a run back to all-time highs. Webull, I'm still holding. I sold 1450 calls for this week on Webull. My adjusted cost basis now is like 1440. So I sold 1450 calls. If I get out at 1450, that's fine. If not, then we'll just keep running those covered calls on them. Tesla right here at 317, NVIDIA 163. BMNR, Oscar, is that down? Oscar up 3%. BMNR is above 50. There she goes. 51, folks. Oh, yeah. Meta bought Play AI. Meta bought another company over the weekend. Meta bought Play AI. We talk about all this talent. I covered a pretty big story last night, and we'll talk about it later about OpenAI and Google. TLDR, OpenAI was supposed to buy a AI coding company. They didn't want Microsoft to have access to the deal. The deal got closed. All those employees that thought they were going to get life-changing amounts of money and a massive buyout, that went to shit, quite frankly. And Google stepped in and licensed the IP, and OpenAI lost the deal. So the war for talent is massive. Google paid about $2.4 billion to license the IP. The biggest loser right here is OpenAI, in my opinion, because of the tension they're having with Microsoft. But the fact that Google paid $2.4 billion, well, take a look at what Meta said. They confirmed they acquired Play AI, the startup behind AI-generated human-like voices. We don't have the exact number amount, but the full Play AI team is set to join Meta next week. No word on what they paid, but this follows other big AI moves, like acquiring pretty much 10 of the top 20 researchers from OpenAI last week and giving them a couple $2 billion in aggregate over 4 to 5 years in these contracts to join Meta. Meta right here, 721. That is up in the market open. Palantir just 4 cents away from 145. There she goes. Back to 145. Back to 145. All right, so Palantir is having some fun. Let me check some resistance levels here. Rocket Lab at 40. Let's check that resistance. 16,000 shares on Rocket Lab at 40. 16,000 shares for Robinhood 102, because we already broke through 101. 102 resistance is 17,000 shares. Not too crazy. And then Palantir 146, because we already broke through 145. That resistance is 31,000 shares. 31,000. Nebius right here, 48.91. That's up 11% here right now. I'm still trying to figure out the semiconductor news, bro. Why? I don't see, you guys are saying Taiwan stuff. I don't see any Taiwan headlines. There's got to be something else that's hurting the semis and that's creating some of this pain right here. I feel like it has to do with TSM, but I don't see that. SMH right here, semiconductor ETF, that's, yeah, down 1.3%. There has to be some semiconductor news. I don't think it's a rotation. I mean, rotating into what? Software? Like maybe? Is IGV up? BMNR 50.47. IGV, I mean, software is up today. I don't think it's crazy to rotate into software, but I mean, I don't know. It feels like there's been so much AI momentum, specifically on the infrastructure and data center space, that you would be long semis. Could the Micron news be causing the entire pain for the semiconductors? I find that hard to believe, but that seems like a more Micron-specific story versus bearish for all the semis. Yeah, I don't see any semiconductor headline at all, dude. I see nothing. I see absolutely nothing. So this could also just be, could be algos. But Oracle going down is also indicative of the fact that there has to be something the street is seeing in semis. Oracle right here down about 2%. Tesla now potentially going red and lost 320 back at 316. SoFi is getting hit. Grab's getting hit from 515 to 509. Robinhood's getting hit. We're getting red candles across the board. They're starting to pop up just a little bit right here. AMD, that one also down 2.3%. Malaysia tightens rules on movement of US-made AI chips. Okay, maybe that could be the headline. Maybe. I mean, it feels a little aggressive to take all the semis down, but maybe that could be the reason. BMNR right here also getting hit. So across the board, you're seeing the red candles. Wow, Nvidia below 163. All right, there is a piece of news. We don't have it yet, but there is a piece of news that's hurting the semis. Feels like there has to be. Oh, thank you for the $100 super chat. In Sailor We Trust. Thank you so much for the super chat. Again, if you've been put in the chat, if you're heavily into MSTR, either through leverage, through Misty, through MSTX. I mean, if you're in this one, I know a lot more people were heavily into MicroStrategy last year compared to this year, but if you're in it, and if you're heavy in it, you're definitely having some fun. You are definitely having some fun. This stock year to date, I believe, is up 50%. Yeah, 49.5 on MSTR. So thank you for the super chat and congrats to those that are deep in MicroStrategy right here. Misty's doing great too. I mean, Misty is well above my cost basis now. So when they give the dividend, hopefully when they take the dividend outside of the net asset value, which is how they return the capital, I'll still be green on the position, which is the goal, right? For a long-term thesis on holding something like Misty. Misty right here, 22.56. That's up 2.2%. Robinhood is about to go red. I mean, it's up 1%, but it looks like it can go red. S&P 0.24 down, and then SoFi right here just below 21 on SoFi. Wow, Goldman upgraded SoFi to 19? Huh. Look at that. Usually they tend to follow when the price goes up. Now, they don't have a buy. They have a neutral. But that price target at 19 is nice to see. I mean, you have a lot of price targets on SoFi that are still in like the 12 to 14 range. So you are seeing some. I think Barclays gave it 18 last week as well. So those are starting to get higher. Yes, I do expect a higher Misty dividend because the just like synthetically the call options that they're writing, although they're being challenged because obviously if the stock goes above your strike price, you know, the calls go away. The upside calls that they have, because that's how they continue to gain exposure to MicroStrategy's upside movement, even if their calls are capped in terms of their profits, should be massively green. So I would imagine the dividend we got was 123 last time. I imagine that dividend is closer to $2 if this momentum continues throughout the month of July. But we should see that for Misty, or at least closer to like 175-ish. But ultimately, it'll depend on the volatility going into the end of the month. BMNR gets halted. BMNR gets halted. Yes, I'm still holding Webull. Still holding Webull. BMNR gets halted. All right, it's either halted to the upside or the downside. We'll find out when it opens up. What about the other Ethereum treasuries? BTBT, that stock is up 9%. And then SBET, that stock is up 12%. BMNR is the only one that gets halted every time. The rest of them are fine, but it feels like there's so much volume for BitMine versus the other ones. It might be halted to the downside because it was just at 51. Now it's at 45. So you might be having some sell orders come in. It's a crazy stock, right? Yeah, crazy freaking stock. MSTX is probably not pumping as hard due to NAV erosion as well. I mean, it is double of MSTR today, but again, this is the problem with these leveraged ETFs, right? Like if the stock is flat for a long amount of time, the reason TSLL has worked since March is because Tesla went from 200 to 375 at one point, 220 to 375. So Tesla hasn't been flat. It's been flat in like the past couple of weeks, but it made a move. MicroStrategy has kind of been flat all year until the past couple of weeks, which is where it really started to gain momentum because Bitcoin started going up. And that's where the leveraged 2x funds, their NAV gets eroded every day if the underlying is flat. So that's why I think that one's not pumping as hard, but it is still up double MSTR today. MSTR is up 3%. That one's up about 7%. Grab right here getting hit from 515 to 503. So that one going down. And then Google 183 back to 180. Again, similar story to last week, right, guys? We pump really heavy in those first 10 minutes. And then we tend to get a little bit of weakness. And then 10:30, you get a bit of a slam. And then by the end of the day, we kind of end green, kind of end flat, but it's not like we're making that much progress towards the upside, which is okay. ASTS right here up 1% because of how much of an amazing past 2 months we've had. So I guess it's kind of like consolidation, but the potential of breaking out of consolidation for the first 15 minutes of the day, and then it ends up just consolidating, which I'll take. I'll take that any day of the week in this market. Google right here, 180. But that's kind of what's happening pretty much every single day. Micron getting hit down about 5.5%. All the Bitcoin miners are moving. Marathon is kind of popping. That was about 15 last week. Now it's up. BMNR isn't available on Trading 212 or Robinhood Europe. Really? I think that would be expanding pretty soon. That's weird that you can't buy this in Europe. There's probably some regulatory reason why. Well, that's kind of a tailwind. I mean, there's no options on BMNR, and if you can't buy it in Europe, I would imagine when they eventually expand to Europe and they introduce options, that could be a massive new market of buyers that step in. Yes, XRP is over 3. I do own some XRP now because one of you guys gave me a super chat and I bought it on Friday. But XRP, I think my average is 270. This is basically at $3. So that one getting some love with Bitcoin. Okay, this headline I saw last night, and I don't really know the implication of this, but Japanese 30-year bond went up to 3.17% last night. It's around basically that same yield. And this is not the best thing. Japanese 30-year right here, 3.176. This is the highest in history, which is an issue because obviously yields cannot be this high on bonds, especially when they get this high. You have some issues and some cracks potentially in the credit markets. However, Metaplanet is basically trading at all-time highs as well. And we've been talking about how a lot of the Japanese markets, if you've been keeping up with how they're navigating it, Palantir back to 145, a lot of the individual retail investors and some of the credit investors are feeling really annoyed with the amount of debt to GDP that Japan is unleashing. And they're picking alternative assets. I mean, one of the reasons why Bitcoin could be running so much is because of the Japanese. You got Metaplanet that's buying like almost 100 Bitcoin every single week. They're now a $7 billion company. And you've got a lot of the Japanese youth that are interested in investing in markets thinking, why the hell would I buy my country's bonds when they are constantly debasing our currency? Pounds right here, 145.28. Again, we have about 30,000 shares at 146 to overcome. So that could be one of the reasons that's causing a bid for Bitcoin from the Japanese markets. Oh, Rocket Lab back to 40. There she goes. Rocket Lab back to 40. As more investors in Japan just feel that, hey, this is not where we want to park our capital. So Rocket Lab breaking over 40 for the second time in 2 weeks is very exciting. We broke over 40 on Friday. We barely held it. Today, again, got to 40.09, still barely held it. So we really got to get above 40 to see some of the momentum. Palantir 146. Resistance again is 38,000 shares. 38,000 shares. Rocket Lab broke above 40, which is very nice. There is no more resistance now. It just needs volume to come in. And it looks like Palantir is trying to make her run right here. 145.46. Yield Max isn't available in the UK either. Wow. A lot of these products, they have a lot more room to expand if they just go international. That could be tons of momentum that comes into some of those names. Google right here, 180. Nvidia still down. I don't have any semi update yet. I'm still looking, but I don't see anything coming across my screen that is like inherently bearish semiconductors. S&P basically about to go green, folks. 623.29. Palantir 30 cents away from 146. Again, all-time highs are above 146. So we've seen this before, but it would be very nice to get back there. Yeah, Metaplanet's not available either to retail investors on Robinhood. I think you can only get it through like Fidelity and Schwab. It's not available on IBKR either in Kale. Yeah, you have to do a little bit of I think like currency exchanges to some extent to get access to it. Like there's some stuff you got to do to work for it. But if you bought it over the past couple months, I mean, Metaplanet has been an incredible return as well. Palantir's trying. She's trying. She hit 145.83. She is trying. Let's see. She's definitely trying. The drone stocks as well are catching a bid. One of the companies that Palantir works with, Red Cat, look at that, up 7%, back above $9. Pete Hegseth, director of the DoD, said last week that the U.S. is going to start buying a ton of drones, and that's what created some of this momentum for a bunch of the drone names. Palantir right here, 145.90. All right, folks, 10 cents. 10 cents, 5 cents. Let's see. Let's see if she can get there. Is Rocket Lab above 40? Rocket Lab back above 40. 40.03 on Rocket Lab. 40.03 on Rocket Lab. A close above 40 would be very exciting. Grab right here at 502. SoFi. It's kind of weird that SoFi is going red right here, and SoFi is not breaking above 21. Very weird, to be honest. That's I don't know. Maybe it's some of the news from JP Morgan last week, but that one is kind of being held down right there at 20.93. Google at 180, and then Palantir got rejected. Oh no, we touched 140. Dude, we barely touched 146. We touched it. I see 146.03. We touched it, but like very barely. Yeah, that was there for like a millisecond. Resistance is gone. So we did break 146. We got to get back above it, which I think we will. But that was very, very quick above 146. Palantir right here, 145.40. S&P 622. NVIDIA 162. Grab 502. Microsoft back above 500. Enphase right here catching a little bit of a bid. That's up 3%. HIMS is up 2%. Coinbase 400 is going to be psychological. They're not going to let that easily get above 400, but if it does, that'll be very exciting. Corey right here, 134. That's green. And then Rocket Lab, there she goes, above 40. Above 40. I would not touch FICO right here. I don't think FICO is the worst shot to take a gamble on. I just think there's a lot of nuances happening inside of the Federal Housing Administration that particularly could implicate the underwriting of credit that FICO's entire business is based on. So, I mean, I wouldn't touch FICO here. I can't blame anyone for taking a shot on FICO, but yeah, personally, I think there's some better opportunities and I just wouldn't want to take the risk. Rocket Lab right here at 40. There she goes. There's Palantir over 146. There she goes. 146.15 on Palantir. There you go. All right, so Palantir and Rocket Lab really carrying the mantle today. Rocket Lab above 40 and Palantir above 146. There's no specific Palantir headline that I see. We do have earnings coming up, so people could be getting excited for earnings. That's kind of the main thing, I guess, that could be causing a run. Earnings is about a month away, though, so we do have some time. Or it could be a transition to software names from semiconductors, if that's kind of one of the theories we have on why the semis are down today. I mean, that could explain why Salesforce is up as well. It's like all the semis, though, which is the interesting thing. The only one that's green is SMCI by like 1%, a little bit. But that's it. Bitcoin, where is Bitcoin? Well, back to 122. All right, there she is. Back to 122. Coinbase market cap, up 100 billion. I don't think it's the Dan Ives upgrade. He said that on Friday, 160. I think it would have moved on Friday. Maybe it's a little bit of a delayed reaction, but I don't really think it's from Dan Ives right here. Bitcoin 122. That's getting some love. Snapchat, where's Snapchat right here? That one, 924, that's up 1.3. That made a little bit of a move 2 weeks ago when it went from like 820 to 9. Robinhood chilling just below 100. Palantir just below 146. And then NVIDIA 163. I think Oracle's down, quite frankly, because it's run. I mean, Oracle's up more than 100% from the lows. It was at like 130 on the lows. And then year to date, it's up 36%. This one taking a breather is very normal, in my opinion. Yeah, up 8% over the past month. But, it's taking a breather with all the semis, which leads me to believe there's something going on in the semis. Or it's just algos, and the semis will be back soon. Yeah, NVIDIA now below 4 trillion. NVIDIA now below 4 trillion. 163.93 is the 4 trillion mark for NVIDIA. The deep dive on ABCL will happen when Arnie is free. So Arnie's been busy. He's been traveling a lot. Whenever he's free, I mean, it's not worth doing it without Arnie because he's one of the main thought leaders on this stock. So whenever I get him to be free, we will do a deep dive. Hopefully this Thursday. Hopefully you'll see. I'll hit him up. I'll see if we couldn't do Pound Weekly on Friday because he was traveling as well. So if he's free, then we'll try to do ABCL. From my private conversations with Arnie, though, this is not a stock that, it's not a stock you buy and expect it to move aggressive. Chris also has been talking about this name for the past couple of years. This is a stock you hold literally for 20 years because you believe that it's either a 100x or it goes to zero. So for those that want to buy it because they think it'll move to like 5 or 6, I mean, maybe, but that is definitely not Arnie's mentality or Chris's mentality when approaching the stock. It's fun that it's made a nice move, and I'm pretty sure people are excited about it, but the mentality is not, well, if they have their revenue get to this level or their earnings, it's like, no, they have to have scientific breakthroughs inside of sequencing for them to be able to make a move. And when they do make a move, it's going to be a crazy move. But that just takes time. That's not a move overnight. Wow, Surf Mobility is down 15%. Huh. Who could have predicted that? Who could Dude, it's just like some of these names with momentum, bro. No one knew why it was up last week, 15%. Now in a day, down 15%. Probably because people said they don't want to play with it anymore. Big Bear AI. Why is that stock down? Well, people are kind of bored with it. I mean, some of these names, there are some fundamental theses behind these companies. SoundHound, why is that down 5%? But a lot of it's momentum. A lot of it is momentum. And that's okay. Momentum's fine. It's just I just feel like everyone should know that it is momentum. You don't get this type of volatility outside of there being. I mean, BM&R, this is all hype. This is all hype. Up 30% today. This is all hype. It was down 70% last week. It's up 30% today. It's all momentum. It was halted to the upside. Yeah, opened up 42 to 55, halted again, or 45 to 52, halted again right here. But if you're trading the hype, you're trading the hype. I think some people are thinking of these as like generational investments because they see a stock go from 2 to 10, when in reality, that's usually the opposite of a generational investment. A generational investment takes time and eventually shows itself to be generational. A stock that goes from 3 to 7 in a week is usually just a stock that goes from 3 to 7 in a week. BitMine right here at 52.20. That is green. I'm not hating on Big Bear AI. There's nothing personal towards these names. I'm not short. I don't I think there's the bull in me for this market wants to protect against froth. And when I mean protect against froth, I want to protect myself against thinking oh my God, this is the greatest market ever because some stock's going from 3 to 10. It's no, it's the greatest market ever because NVIDIA has a 56% profit margin and they're growing 70%. It's not because Big Bear AI is running because AI is in the ticker. And I just think we have to understand that. Because eventually what goes up must come down, especially if there's nothing fundamental rooted behind it, which is why Surf Air Mobility, why is this thing down 16% in a day? Not even a day, in 20 minutes since the market opened. It's there is no reason. It's just people decided to dump it because there was no reason to buy it. And so I think we do have some of that froth in this market that's not healthy, but hopefully it gets overshadowed by the parts of this bull market that are pretty healthy. Robinhood back to 100, Tesla 315, and then Palantir 145.30 down below 146. Or I'm just a hater. Or you can just say I'm a hater. You can say that too. Amit, I'm up 175% on SBET in 9 days. When do I sell? All right, put in the chat. What do we think? For Callum right here in the chat, we'll do a poll on this. Or Calum. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I'm probably saying it wrong. If you were up 175% on SBET, would you sell? Yes or no? Because if it's me, I'm taking the money and I'm running. Now, granted, there might be a massive long-term thesis on SBET as an Ethereum treasury. And you might be mad at me for selling, because I would sell if this thing goes up another 175% in 15 days. But you've got to decide that for yourself, right? Wow, 81% of you say yes, dude. You guys have no diamond hands, bro. Holy crap, everyone's ready to sell. SBET is an Ethereum treasury. That's all it is. It's an Ethereum treasury. Look, here's the thing. The easy way to resolve the situation is take out your initial. I mean, this is the easiest way for people to navigate these situations. If you really don't want to miss out on the upside, if you think there's more upside, then take out your initial, and now it's house money. So if you put in 20,000 and you're up 20,000, right? Let's just say you're up double. Take out the initial 20,000, leave the other 20,000. That's not even your money anymore. That's, money you made through gains. And then if that 20,000 goes to zero, you didn't really lose anything. If it goes up, then you make more. Someone said I'm up 20x on SBET August calls, just sold half. 20x, bro. Holy crap, dude. Congrats. Goodness gracious. This is why retail is destroying the market this year with our percentage gains year to date. 20x on SBET calls. My goodness, bro. Congrats, dude. I mean, that's absolutely incredible. But selling half when you're up 2,000%, I mean, yeah, not the craziest idea. Not the craziest idea. What do you think about Adobe? I don't like it. I don't like Adobe. Is Adobe up today? Okay, so Adobe's green, which is kind of leading me to believe there might be a little bit of transition from semis to software if Adobe's going green, because Adobe is a SaaS name. I don't know. I think Adobe's like Apple. I don't really think there's an AI thesis here. And if there is, it's not really being communicated in a way that is getting the market excited. I do think it's undervalued for the numbers, and I think eventually it'll re-rate. But narrative-wise, it's not that exciting from an AI perspective. I think Figma can involve. We're going to see eventually how their earnings look going into Q2. That's right here, 316, and then Hoodie back above 100. App Lovin's up today. All right, that's nice. App Lovin right here, 352. That's a 3.5%. Circle 192. That's also up about 2.7%. I'm up 40x on my July calls on SBET. Dude, you guys are some freaking degens. You guys are some freaking degens. And speaking of degens, someone on Wall Street Bets over the weekend took his mom's retirement from 1.4 million to 5.4 million. Mike's not working. All right, hold on. Better. Yes. If not, I'm gonna fix it. Okay. Give me a second. Hold on.
Mr. Hasset said this morning.
Yes or no answer. Does the president, in your view, have the authority to fire the Fed chair?
That's a thing that's being looked into, but certainly if there's cause, he does.
I think that we've got a real problem of oversight and excess.
Okay, how about now? Are we good? I switched back to the regular mic. It should be good. Yes, we're good. Why is it randomly happening, bro? Why is it being... No, it's worse? Okay, so let me switch back to my other mic. Okay, we're back to the good one, right? Some of you guys are saying good, some of you guys are saying bad, bro. Like, makes it hard to figure it out. Is this better? Dude, why is the mic's been good for the past couple of days? I don't know why it's freaking out today. Okay, this should be good now. This should be good. Yes, this should be good. Okay, cool. We're good. Anyway, what I was saying, sorry about that. What I was saying is someone on Wall Street Bets took their mom's retirement from 1.4 million to 5.4 million. 1.4 to 5.4 in 18 months. So when you got people saying, they're up 20x or 40x on SBET calls, I mean, you got some other parts of retail doing incredible. It's not a cheap mic, bro. It's not a cheap mic. It's freaking StreamYard. It's a $500 mic. It's just StreamYard being StreamYard. But hopefully when we move into the new studio in August, we'll get some of this stuff resolved. But they traded HIMS options. This was kind of the main thing they traded to get to this types of gains. And now they sold 85% of the gains. They're in 85% cash. And they have puts on the QQQ because they think Qs are a little bit hot right now. And they have calls on UNH, which UNH, one of the names that's relatively safe right here. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those markets where people are taking more risk, and some of that risk really is paying off. Robinhood right here trying to get back to 101, Tesla 315, Palantir 145, and then NVIDIA Still down on the day. S&P 622. Your chair is peeling. You need to get a new one. I did order a new chair. Dude, this weekend, the amount of shit Amazon delivered was kind of wild, bro. Like I woke up and it was like, I felt like I think it was Macaulay Culkin in the first Home Alone when he wakes up on Christmas and there's like 85 gifts in front of him or something. It was just insane, bro. That was a lot. I've never ordered this much from Amazon. MicroStrategy right here, 453. But the new chair will be coming in like 3 days. And so I'll be getting a new chair as well. Rocklab 41. Wow, she's not stopping. Look at that. 41 Dolores on Rocket Lab. Folks, I think we got to ring the bell. Rocket Lab right here, all-time highs. Congrats, everybody. 41 bucks on Rocket Lab. Oh my, that is incredible. That is incredible. Yes, it is Home Alone 2. You're right. It is Home Alone 2. Home Alone 2, by the way, one of the best movies of all time, in my opinion. Lost in New York. I mean, I think that's like top 50 all time. I think that's a phenomenon. That's like, it's one of the best Christmas movies ever as well. Also, it's funny. It's like actually funny, but not a bad movie. Rocket Lab moving 4111. Let's check 42 resistance. Let's check 42 resistance because why not? Let's check it. I'm going to bet 20,000 shares. 42 resistance is 25,000 shares. 25,000 shares at 42. 25,000. Jed says, remember when Rocket Lab was around $4 and people in the chat used to laugh at us? Good luck being broke. Oh my gosh. That's hilarious, dude. That's hilarious. I love when, dude, whenever someone says good luck being broke after, like, it's always the most funniest. It's like just one of the funniest things ever. Because it's like, oh, you missed Pounter at 6. Good luck being broke. It's just like the wording of it to me is hilarious. But yeah, I mean, look, some of you guys that were super bullish on Rocket Lab at $4 or $5, you were made fun of. You were seen as people that were betting in some stupid Rocket Lab company or some rocket company, and it's worked out. It's absolutely worked out right here. Robin just below 101, Pounter 144, and Rocket Lab right here having some fun. $40.97. Is ASTS running? ASTS 4713. That's up 3.4%. Where's Lemonade and Oscar? Lemonade is up 1.65. Oscar is a little reversal back to 15, 1492. A little bit of a reversal. I'm now up officially 100% on my Rocket Lab. I am up 78%. Dude, it's kind of wild, bro. Like, I'm up $37,000 on Rocket Lab, and I did not expect Rocket Lab to do anything for the portfolio this year. Really didn't expect it to do a thing. And it's contributing. It's freaking contributing, which is not bad. Now, granted, we looked at the price of sales on Rocket Lab, which price of sales to me is one of the definitive metrics on if something's pricey or not. This is the list we have on high price to sales companies: CoreWeave, ARM, DJT, ASTS, Qubits, CrowdStrike, Circle, Rocket Lab, Palantir. Rocket Lab trades at like almost a 37 price to sales. Rocket Lab 40.6 price to sales. So, I mean, you're paying 40 times revenue for Rocket Lab. That is aggressive. But Street's ready to pay that. BitMine up 40%, folks. She's moving. BitMine is moving. Look at that candle. 57. Look at that. That one is moving. Went from 90,000 to 960,000 in 12 months. Congrats, man. That's life-changing money. That's incredible. Absolutely freaking incredible. Ashwin's up 501% on Rocket Lab. I mean, and Rocket Lab is a retail name, bro. Rocket Lab is not an institutional name. Rocket Lab is Matt Money and Vince and that whole crew 2 years ago that were discussing this thing at $4. So big shout out to them. This is retail. This is 1000% retail. Shout out to Martin. I know Martin got Rocket Lab below $10. I mean, a lot of you guys took a shot on this one when it was a baby stock, when it was a SPAC that seemed like, you know, it was a stupid company that down 70% from SPAC days, but I think it fell to 315 at one point when they diluted as well. And those buys look pretty incredible right here. Bitmine, 56.30. That's up 40%. Rocket Lab actually trying to move to 42, folks. 41.40. She might have a shot. She might have a shot to move above there. Robinhood back at 101, which is very nice to see. I think 100, folks, I think 100, I mean, I don't want to be the guy to say it, but I might have to be the guy to say it. Is 100 going to be support for the rest of the year? Is $100 going to be support for the rest? I think it's too early to say that. I think 90 is definitely more definitive support than 100. But I mean, if 100 is support, that would be very nice. SoFi's back to 21. There she goes. SoFi back to 21. Okay, cool. It's nice to see some of these names get some momentum, even though the broader markets are still flat. Grab right here, 504. Meta, 719. Salesforce, 260. And then PayPal, 73.72. Elon just tweeted this. He said, I just had dinner at the retro futuristic Tesla diner and Supercharger team did a great work making it one of the coolest spots in LA. So this is not open to the public yet, but there is a Tesla diner in LA that's opening up where you're going to be able to allow the Tesla to charge and then go in and like get food, which is kind of crazy. And I think I also think they're opening up a movie theater, if I'm not wrong. So again, Elon's tweeting a lot about Tesla and he's excited about the progress that they're making, much more than, you know, everything else. Oh yeah, this was big news on Grab over the weekend. I forgot to even mention this. So GoTo, the company that reportedly over the past couple of weeks they were thinking of acquiring, that company is, I believe, an investigation is being launched into the company, and the specific headline right here is GoTo investigated by Indonesian government over possible 610 million in fraud, which is great for Grab. It's so good for Grab because there's two scenarios that could happen. Either one, GoTo gets investigated to such an extent that the Indonesian government literally like demands that they be sold to a different company because they can't trust them anymore. Because I mean, Indonesia is not the biggest economy in the world. When you do a 610, $500 million fraud, and you're one of the gems inside of that company as a public inside of that country as a public company, GoTo is like one of the core Indonesian names you can trade on their stock market. That's like not a good look. Or B, even if they don't demand they're sold, I mean, potentially their business suffers. And for Grab, that's great. For Grab, that's amazing. Because if GoTo suffers because they're being investigated, Grab has no issues with investigations. Grab's just, you know, continuing to execute. If Indonesian consumers continue to choose Grab over GoTo, I mean, that is definitely a tailwind for them. So either scenario, either we get a really cheap buyout or GoTo ends up just like not being successful and Grab ends up winning in Indonesia, which is the biggest market in Southeast Asia. And that could also be the reason why Grab is getting a little bit of a bid right here. Robinhood is at 100. Rocket Lab 41.57. Robinhood at 100.88. Rocket Lab 41.50. Trying to break through. And then Pouncer right here, 144.60 here right now. S&P 622, AMD 144, and then SoFi just below 21. With the Singapore government trying to force a sale, I don't think the Singapore government cares. It's about the Indonesian government. The Indonesian government probably doesn't want one of their best stocks in the market to be down 80% and then be investigated for fraud. Now, granted, I think there were some rumors that they were trying to get Grab to pay like $7-8 billion bucks. And I think Grab's like, screw you. We're not paying that much money. Like, we'd rather let them die. The business is barely worth $2 billion. They can't afford to lose money like Grab is losing money. And Grab is profitably losing money because their cash burn is so high, but they still figured out a way to become profitable on a GAAP basis, not even on an adjusted EBITDA basis. So I think it's just bullish for them as regional consolidation continues to take place. We saw Food Panda leave Thailand because they couldn't turn a profit after 10 years. I mean, this is just inevitable. This is a market that's growing massively, highest GDP growth across the world. And Grab is the household brand that I think is going to really take up market share. BM&R, are we still running? BM&R for, wow, 57.30. All right, so that's up 41%. If you bought at 39 last night, it's at 57. Not too bad. And then HIMS is also going green. HIMS is up 4%. HIMS is up 4%. Okay, there was some freaking headline on HIMS for their app downloads being down year over year or something. I saw that in the morning, but then there was other conflicting data that their traffic, website traffic, is really, really strong to start off July. So I'll try to pull that up. But I did see a couple conflicting pieces of narratives on Hims. Yeah, okay. So Hims House says the news of the morning is that Morgan Stanley said app downloads have declined year over year for the first time. Morgan Stanley says web traffic also is only up 5%. It is worth noting that according to SimilarWeb, the standard for many funds and sell-siders, Hims and Hers, overall web traffic grew 31% year over year. Okay, so a little bit of conflicting data, but we're going to see how that plays out eventually when the actual earnings comes out later in July. 49.50 on Hims. Where is Rocket Lab? 41.58. 41.58. Chad says, I'm going to make some Amit merch. First shirt is not too bad with extra spacing between the words. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. Not space, 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 two, space, 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 bad. That's a very good idea. Chad had this banger tweet over the weekend right here. Don't worry about impression count, but the impression you leave is what counts. Don't worry about impression count, but the impression you leave is what counts. It's a banger, bro. It's a banger. It's a banger freaking tweet. Now, I had a banger as well. I don't know if you guys saw my banger, but it was a pretty nice one on Friday. I didn't show it on the stream, but I feel like it wasn't horrible. This is what I said. I said, side chick just texted me and asked how many Hood and Pouncer shares I have. This was on Friday. I told her if she ever asked that question again, then she won't have a chance of becoming the main. You need to protect yourself in this bull market, Kings. That was my banger. So that was Chad says this, and then Chad says this has to be your most beta tweet of all time. I was like, maybe it's because my portfolio is leveraged to all high beta names. And then I said, okay, I'll stop. Someone said this is up there on the cringe, and I said, yeah, dude. I was in my car, bro. I was like, my hand was on the button. I was like, well, should I press it? Like, I really thought it was like, if I press this, it's going to be cringe. But then I told myself I don't wear a watch because the time is always now. And then I pressed it and I moved on with my life. That's what I did. Sometimes you got to just do it. And that's why Chad said he put out this tweet for me. Don't worry about the impression count, but the impression you leave is what counts. I wasn't rage baiting with that post. Okay. I was just like, I thought it was a banger. So he said, I wrote this for you to stop rage baiting me on your post. I thought it was decent. Rocket Lab right here, trying to go for 42, 41.72, new all-time high on Rocket Lab, and robbing it back to 101. But I thought it was a fun post. Dude, some of these posts, you really do have to creatively take risks, right? Because like as a content creator, you always want to spice things up, keep things a little interesting. And was it a cringe post? Yeah, but it was kind of funny. And like sometimes you screw it. You just post it. And you see what happens. There was no side chick, by the way, that actually tagged. That was fake. It was obviously I was just like saying it to say it. It wasn't like anything real, but it was funny. Dude, NVIDIA is trying to get back to 164. Wow, NVIDIA back to 4 trillion. Back to 4. Chad says, oh, really? So surprised. NVIDIA back to 4 trillion. There she is. All right, so the market making a little bit of a move. Tesla to 315. Robin is just trying to hold 101. Google trying to get back to 181. Grab 505. And then Rocket Lab, I think she wants 42, folks. I think she wants 42. So surprised. It was not a side dude, even though a lot of you guys commented that under the post. Is it a side dude? No. It was nobody. But it was funny. Now you just ruined it. Dude, I think she's about to do it. She's 4 cents away. Rocket Lab, there's 25,000 shares, folks. I think we're about to see it. Rocket Lab 42, 26. There she goes, 42. 42 Dolores on Mr. Rocket Lab. Wow. What a run. What a freaking run. 42.11. Let me check 43 resistance because we're greedy and we want more. We want more. Only 4,000 shares at 43. Only 4,000 shares at 43. That's it. Only 4,000 shares at 43. I clap like a seal. Really? You guys find a way to criticize every little. Not only do we make fun of how I speak, now I clap like a seal. Are we serious? Goodness gracious. I mean, it kind of does sound like a seal now that I think I'm like imagining a seal clapping right now, but still. 42.20 on Rocket Lab. Eli Lilly, that one's up about 1%. Robinhood really trying to break through 101 and hold above it. Palantir got to 146, right back to 145. NVIDIA, dude, I think the semis are coming back. AMD's also making a move. I think the semis are, AMD was at 141. Now it's at 140, almost 145. I mean, I think she's trying. I think she is really trying. Wow, dude, we're getting a lot of moves in this market just coming back to life. Rocket Lab, it's not even going back below 42. Usually it gets sold off or gets rejected right when it breaks the new dollar level. It did that at 41, and it's holding. This is nice, bro. This is nice. We're seeing some important moves. By the way, 76% of you said you would sell SBET. Where is SBET right here along with BM&R? SBET, that's up 21%. And then BM&R, is that halted again? That is not halted, but it's at 53. So it's up 30%. SPY high of day. That's correct. SPY high of day. There she goes. S&P goes green. S&P goes green. We are green, green, green. I don't think it's criticizing. I think the chat just likes you so much they love picking on you. Yeah, isn't that, dude, when doesn't, like, when a girl makes fun of you, like, that means she likes you. So I think all of you guys like me if you make fun of everything I do. Right? Like when a girl makes fun of you, it means she like, or if a guy makes fun of a girl, right? It means like they like them. So I think you guys have a crush. I'm just saying. I think you guys have a crush. Fabio, thanks for the 50 super chat. SBET swing entry at 25.15 paid me today. Here's some love, up 1,000 and counting. Exit at 60 would be lovely. Trailing stop loss engaged. I love it. Not bad. $1,000 on an SBET swing trade. It's pretty fun right here, up 21%. Thank you for the super chat. And it seems like a lot of you guys that are on these calls for July and August, I mean, those calls are up a lot today. So SBET is printing a decent amount for all of you. Damn, bro, this is one hell of a market. These Ethereum treasuries came out of nowhere. This Bitcoin run over the past week has been exceptional. All we need are good earnings. That's it. All we need are good earnings. We get good earnings, and we're gonna have a fun Q2. And then, as long as we keep it up in Q3, I think that momentum could be strong. Okay, so I saw this headline yesterday. I don't know how true it is. Ghislaine Maxwell is willing to speak in front of the U.S. Congress about the Epstein files. She's probably, look, if it's true, it's come from the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail is not the most reputable news source out there, but I mean, maybe they have sources that are correct. If that's true, she is 20 years in jail right now. I think she's going to be trying to bargain to get like no jail time or a massive plea deal that reduces those 20 years substantially. She's going to be looking for complete immunity. And I don't know. I don't know if the feds are willing to talk with her, because at the end of the day, Trump is the one who said, we're closing the case. But if she's willing to talk, I mean, it's really up to Kash Patel to say, hey, all right, let's have the conversation. Let's see what you have to say. But I don't know. Given Trump's basically saying, hey, let's not talk about it anymore, I don't know if the administration is going to take that seriously. It's going to be hard to imagine they let her talk, but based on the Daily Mail, if you believe that reporting, they did say yesterday that she is willing to talk. So we'll see how that ends up playing out as well. Oh, Trump is meeting the NATO Security General. Trump is about to go live. Let me pull this up in a second. Oscar's up 5%. That one's getting some love. Trump's being the NATO. So he already met the NATO Security General back in the Netherlands. So I guess he's coming to the White House. And that's probably the reason why he's meeting him today. Let's get some coverage right here on Tesla, and then we will keep going from there. But here is some Tesla coverage, and we'll see whenever Trump goes live.
Tesla would have invested in XAI long ago. We will have a shareholder vote on the matter. Comes as the Wall Street Journal reported over the weekend that SpaceX will invest about $2 billion in XAI.
We've seen this movie before, right? With X combining with XAI and that merger. We've seen, with SpaceX and Tesla. So it is interesting that he's against a merger, but for the investment. Speaking of Musk, Tesla's facing a new threat in China when it comes to its popular Model Y. Eunice Yoon here with the details. Eunice.
Thanks, Sarah. Well, it's called the Xiaomi U7. This is an SUV that's going head to head with Tesla's Model Y here at $35,000. It's just slightly less than the Model Y. It also includes a driver assistance technology. This is their most advanced one. They give that one away for free. So that's unlike Tesla. And then both are seen as performance cars. And the Xiaomi is seen as one that has a bit of a better range. Now, in China, of course, as you guys were talking about, there are so many car makers that are putting out so many new models. But this one has been getting a lot of buzz. People have been saying this is a company, Xiaomi, that is a household name, and they really like the look. In fact, a lot of people are saying that the design elements remind them of a Ferrari. Now, I got a chance to test drive this car, and there are a lot of fun tech elements. There's a magnetic a tissue box, gadgets, which of course is like a vintage thing for Xiaomi, as well as the screen. It's much easier to use. People have been talking about how it's almost exactly like a smartphone. And then, of course, there are some of the comfort levels, actually. The comfort elements are quite nice as well. You can lie all the way back as a driver in one of their seats. It doesn't handle, though, quite as well as one might hope. When I was driving it, the precision really wasn't necessarily there. And so that's one of the, even though it's a good performance car, a lot of the commentary online has.
What do you guys think? You think it's a real threat to the Model Y?
Been that it's just slightly below the Model Y in that aspect. The Xiaomi, though, has done well. It is a new entrant to the EV market. It's entered the market last year with a competitor to the Model 3. This is called the SU7, and it sold 155,000 of those cars in the first half of the year. The U7 is getting off to a pretty good start. The company claims that it has pre-orders in the first 24 hours of 240,000. Meanwhile, of course, Tesla's Model Y has been down in the first half. It's now seen its sales at 263,000. It did put out a new refurbished Model Y. People have been saying that it's better, that it feels more comfortable, it's more luxurious than the old Model Y, but still it's facing a lot of competition. Guys?
Why are the Chinese automakers so much better when it comes to producing these high-tech, very cool, and lower-cost EVs? I know they get state support. Is that really what the whole thing is?
Well, I mean, that's what a lot of people have said, that there's like a plenty of money that's going to them, but it's also that they really know their customer quite well. When you're talking about a lot of tech features, I personally don't necessarily need a chat bot to be talking to me all the time when I'm in a car, but a lot of people like those types of features. And also when I mentioned some of the other fun features, like the magnetic tissue box, I thought, okay, that's kind of cool. There's like a lot of different ports.
Am I the only one thinking the magnetic tissue box is not that cool?
That are inside this car, so you could plug in every single camera and every single gadget that you have, and people really like that type of thing. And then, of course, there is the performance aspect of it. It was performing really well, and I think actually, Carl, what I thought was interesting is I think it's more of a competitor to say NIO or XPeng or Li Auto. So if you're an investor in one of those companies, I would say pay attention.
Yeah. It used to be about the number of cup holders. Now it's about the number of magnetic tissue boxes.
I always need tissues in the car, so I get it.
Eunice, thanks.
Okay, we'll get back to that in a second, but yeah, I don't know. Tissue boxes. China is a big market for Tesla, so obviously if there is a credible threat, that's important to understand as investors. Tesla right here, basically going red on the day, folks. Hit 322, right back down to 314. My prediction, which I may be wrong about, is I think this stock for the rest of the year is probably stuck from 280 to 330, maybe 350. But I don't think the hype alone gets it back to 400. I think they have to have earnings growth. And I think that'll take about a year to get there. Now, granted, if Elon announces some crazy stuff, then all bets are off the table. But I think 280 to 330-ish is kind of my range. And if it gets above that by the end of the year, that's great. But I'm not expecting it to. Whereas NVIDIA, people are legitimately expecting it to get to 180, 190 because the earnings growth is there. With Tesla, I don't think you can have those expectations in a realistic way because they just don't have the earnings growth. But if that is a credible threat in China, we'll see in the numbers. But I don't know, based on that video, doesn't seem like it's the biggest threat. Rocket Lab, are we going for 43? 42.20. So we hit 42.58 on Rocket Lab. Let me check 43 resistance, which I believe is not a lot. It is 5,000 shares. 5,000 shares. 5,000 shares for 43. Fear and Greed's at 77. Fear and Greed's been at 77 for the past week now. So we've had extreme greed for a while. Tesla is launching in India tomorrow as well. Yep. That's going to be something that potentially could create some momentum. They're going to be opening up their first showroom in Mumbai. I don't really know. Like, dude, I just went to India in October. Like, I don't know if those cars could easily work, not even on FSD, but just in general inside of that country. So I'm curious to see kind of what they look like on the road. Obviously, if Tesla solves FSD in India, we're going to freaking like 50 trillion, like it's happening. But that might take some time. But I will be curious to see kind of how the cars look like on the road. And, you know, is a Cybertruck, does that even have the capacity to work in India because the roads are so narrow and that car is so big. Rocket Lab right here, 42.16. Is there any news on Rocket Lab today, guys? Because it's up 8%, but I don't think we saw a headline. So I feel like either news is coming or there is going to be news that we kind of missed from a headline. Oh, it's the price target on Citigroup. Okay, Citigroup 33 to 50. Yeah, I guess that's the news. Citigroup 33 to 50. Let me see if I can pull up the actual report and see exactly what they said. Okay, so here's another one from Cantor Fitzgerald. Oh no, Cantor Fitzgerald is a little bit more bearish. They have a $35 price target. They said Rocket Lab chose Bollinger Space Yards for a Neutron landing platform on 710. Rocket Lab announced a smart contract or a contract award for the shipyards. The company has started the modification and fit out of Rocket Lab's 400 feet landing platform named Return on Investment at its shipyard in Amelia, Louisiana, with deliveries to begin in early 2026. Modifications are underway. The analyst is relatively positive, but they don't have that $50 price target. I'll try to see what the Citi analyst said to get Rocket Lab at 50. I feel like that's the reason it's running. Okay, so here's what Citigroup said. Our price target increases to 50 as we shift our valuation methodology. We now look at the company's revenue potential in 2029 versus 2027, as we believe that period better reflects a more mature state of the company's business model. Wow. Dude, Citigroup is basically saying, hey, if we look at 2027 revenue, that makes it really expensive, which is what we talked about. The price of sales is like above 40. So we're going to shift the year by which we discount the revenue to be able to create a multiple because we want to go further out, which obviously will make the valuation more reasonable, but they've got to execute on the growth. And that period, we expect revenue to grow to roughly $2.6 billion, driven by 20 Neutron launches per year. We continue to see a 15x revenue multiple to derive our price target. The combination of these factors result in a price target of roughly 72, which we can then discount back 13% to our 12-month price target of 50. Finally, we update our model to include $50 million in annual revenues from the Geost acquisition. Huh. So Citigroup with some pretty sophisticated financial engineering to try to get a $50 price target right here. And that's why Rocket Lab might hit 43, 42.50 right now, up almost 9% of the day. They are stretching a bit, bro. They are stretching. To go to 2029, which is 4 years from now, to get your revenue targets. I mean, it's not the worst idea in the world if you think Rocket Lab is going to really put up the growth over the next couple of years, which means the launches like can't go wrong. And some of them will go wrong, and I think they'll have some benefit of the doubt, but Rocket Lab's got to execute phenomenally over the next couple of years. And obviously they got to get profitable, which hopefully is either by the end of this year or early next year. All right, there you go. That's why it's running, folks. I mean, I personally wouldn't be chasing Rocket Lab here. Granted, I'm not as bullish on the name as some of the other names. So if you're heavy in this and your average is like $10 and you want to get more and you think it's going to 50 by the end of the year, I mean, averaging up is also not crazy. I just think there's not a growth reason for why this stock is moving. It's like a perception of growth reason. And that's okay, but that's also why it's getting some of this momentum right here. Also, probably some FOMO. You probably got some people looking at SpaceX's valuation at 400 billion. Rocket Lab's market cap is 20. You got some people saying, all right, this is the space trade. And we are getting in here. Mexico's president said, we've done our part in the fight against fentanyl. The U.S. has to do its part against Mexico. U.S. have working scheme until the 1st of August. Mexico hopes to reach a tariff agreement with Trump. Okay, so, I mean, hopefully we get that agreement soon. I'm sure Trump wants that agreement as well. But August 1st is the deadline. We listened to Pomp in the morning on CNBC already talking about Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin's just having a lot of momentum. And his main point was that Wall Street is starting to recognize how valuable this asset is. Robinhood basically chilling at 100, Bitcoin at 121, Tesla going red, or like 15 cents away from going red. Palantir right here, 145.82, Nvidia 163. S&P goes green. Let's finish up some of our coverage right here on Tessie.
Soon in Beijing. Let's dig a little further into the Chinese EV launch with our next guest. Joining us here at Post 9 this morning, RBC Capital Markets autos analyst Tom Narayan. Tom, welcome. Good to see you. What do you make of the Chinese ability to? Are they selling more EVs than we sell cars overall at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that as much as we all love the tissue holders, I think what's really driving the story in China is EVs, EVs, EVs. They're going to be 80% penetrated by 2030. They're already at 25% today. I think when you're looking at this topic, the threat really isn't to Tesla. It's to, as your co-host pointed out, to the other Chinese players, but it's also to like the German OEMs, the global players, because they're selling too many ICEs there. That's really what it is. And I think the advantage the Chinese have is price. They're able to sell these cars so much cheap batteries. So they own the battery ecosystem. They're vertically integrated. They're already using LFP chemistry. The European OEMs they're still using nickel-based chemistries. They're paying tariffs, right? The Chinese have tariffs on them.
Paying for rare earth licensing.
Exactly, exactly. So the Chinese have an advantage. And look, they are operating at losses, and they get subsidies from the government. Now, how long is that going to continue?
We have the most advanced chips. Shouldn't we be able to do the most high-tech production?
Yeah, when you say we, you mean the Europeans or the US?
US.
Well, we're not really competing in China. I mean, we don't sell as many EVs. Maybe in the future we will. But right now, it's more than just chips, right? I mean, the tech, it's things like this that your host is talking about. It's autonomy features that the Chinese consumer wants. The American consumer, we haven't really embraced autonomy as much, right? We want to drive the car ourselves. The Chinese consumer, maybe not as much. So it's really tailoring the car to what the Chinese consumer wants, and that will happen gradually over time.
Right. Why? I mean, I guess, why is the administration, if this is such a growth market, taking such a harsh stance on mandates and incentives and credits? I mean, isn't the adoption curve getting revised lower in the U.S.?
In the U.S., yes, absolutely. Well, it's just the consumers is very different than the Chinese consumer.
We love driving.
Love driving, and also, you know, as much as we complain about gas prices, they're nowhere near as high as they are in Europe, right? Or in China for that matter, right? Europe and China geopolitically are net importers of fossil fuels. We're not.
Right.
And also,
we
just drive net exporters. We also drive very differently, you know? So EVs probably is going to take a lot longer for it to catch on here.
How critical is it for the Tesla competitive story?
I actually don't think it's as big of a deal. You know, Tesla's doing pretty well in China. Remember, they sell EVs. Right? Huge rising tide that's going to lift a lot of EV boats. They were down like 13% in the second quarter, Tesla in China, right? It's the same amount they were down in the US. I think it has more to do with the fact that Model 3, Model Y are kind of stale. We'll have that new affordable model coming out in Q3. And so I don't know.
Maybe it's about other markets, like, for instance, Saudi Arabia. You know, there was this big push. Tesla finally came into Saudi. You know, Musk was with Trump at the meeting, and BYD and some of these Chinese EVs were already all over the roads there, and now they're ramping up in a market like Saudi.
Yeah, or Europe, right?
Yeah,
that's really the
holy
threat.
grail.
But who is the threat in Europe? Is it to Tesla or is it to Volkswagen, right? I think that's really where the action is. I know a lot of the attention we have in the US is on Tesla, but really the Chinese competitive threat, I think, needs to be looked at as to the Germans, right? And the Europeans, how they're going to fend off the threat. They're selling too many ICEs, but that'll change over time. That battery advantage I talked about before, that dissipates over time because there's only so low you can go in battery costs. The Europeans will adjust. They'll build batteries in Europe. And by the way, so will the Americans.
Finally, we were spitballing with Kramer this morning about would Musk one day spin out autos to take advantage of the Optimus growth story or something like that. Does that seem reasonable over in the next few years? No?
Could be, sure. Yeah. Why not? I mean, I don't know if that really ultimately matters, right? Investors I talk to are looking at robotaxis, right? That's what how you get to $1 trillion market cap on autos, right? The whole auto industry making cars is about a $2.7 trillion business. So do you need to spin it out to really see it? Maybe it helps. I don't know if it's ultimately necessary. The Tesla investor, I think, gets it. And you either believe in the autonomy play or you don't. If you don't believe in autonomy, as the CEO has said, and
he said, sell the stock.
Then you're not going to get to $1 trillion market cap by selling cars.
Do you like?
He's right. He is right. And that has been the story for a long time. HIMS right here up 5%. HIMS is moving. All right, let's do a poll right here in the chat. Let's do a poll. Here we go. Which one would you own for the next, let's call it 5 years? HIMS or Rocket Lab? Let's see. We got some debate I see in the chat over Rocket Lab's multiple versus HIMS. What do you own for the next 5 years? HIMS, market cap of 11.3 billion right now, or Rocket Lab market cap of 20. Rocket Lab, by the way, trying to get 43. It got to 42.88, but then got rejected. It's trying to get there. Pound to resistance at 147. Let's take a look at that. We're at 146. 147 resistance is 43,000 shares. 43,000 shares for Pounder. 60-40 Rocket Lab. It's 60-40 Rocket Lab. Nick says the chat does not like money. Dude, it's a little bit of a hard question, though. Which one outperforms in 5 years? I mean, I can't definitively say one or the other. I can't say definitely Rocket Lab or definitely HIMS. Like, I don't know, bro. I mean, in the next 5 years, I think each of them have a pretty good shot at outperforming nicely. But right now, it's more geared, at least in the chat, towards Rocket Lab. 56 versus 44. Trump is not live yet. It's probably going to take another, 30 minutes before he's live. But he will be meeting with the NATO Secretary General. They'll probably be talking about defense spending. They'll probably be talking about Europe's commitment to defense spending. I wonder, I'm curious. I wonder, and as a journalist, this is one of those things that I think the people that are in the White House, they're going to have to ask themselves, how much do they want to extend the story? Are they going to ask about Epstein again? They already asked last week. Trump got really pissed off. Then on Twitter on Saturday, he put this long-ass essay about why we should stop worrying about it. I wonder how many of the journalists, because they're probably going to be putting their journalistic ability on the line to at least get access to the White House and access to information, are going to keep asking. Because if you keep asking, guess what? The White House is just not going to allow you to ask more questions, right? They're just not going to pick on you anymore. And for journalists, that's a really tough thing, right? Because your job is asking questions. But these are the questions that I think people care about. So I really wonder, in front of the NATO Secretary General, is he going to be asked about Epstein? And I wonder what his reaction will be if he does end up getting that question. The only bubble out there right now is space. Wow, those are some fighting words by Nick. Space is a bubble, huh? ASTS right here up 5%, and then Rocket Lab right here up 9%. I don't think space is a bubble. I think that's a little bit too. Do I think the valuations on ASTS and Rocket Lab are aggressive? Yes, 100%. But is it a bubble? I don't know. Ban Nick. Where's Nate? Nate's got to be here to back you up. Nate definitely agrees with you right now. I mean, look, ASTS is more bubbly than Rocket Lab because ASTS doesn't have any revenue. So let's just say that. However, their business model, as we learned in the deep dive, potentially a little bit better than Rocket Lab, just as more of a SaaS business versus a launch business. But Rocket Lab's putting up earnings. ASTS is not really putting those up yet. But I wouldn't call space a bubble. I mean, if SpaceX is raising at $400 billion, obviously the TAM, if we mark to market SpaceX versus some of these space companies, maybe they don't deserve these valuations, but it's not like they deserve to go down 50 to 70%, which to me is the definition of a bubble. Now, could I see that happening? Sure. Do I think they have to? I don't know. Like, I'd rather own some of these space names than some of these other names in the market. Where's Big Bear? Big Bear right here goes green, up 1.7. Is Soundhound going green? That one's still down 4%. And then QBTS right here, that's up 1.5. I don't know. I don't think it's bubbly yet. But obviously the valuation is up there. Nick says, sorry, chat. I'm just salty. I missed the rocket. I'm in a meeting right now getting fired up about this. There he is. There's Nate. 57% of you say Rocket Lab over HIMSS. Now, the better question is space or quantum over the next decade. Let's do that poll. Space or quantum over the next decade. I think I know what most people will pick. Space or quantum over the next decade. Means you got to own one of them. I'm predicting this is going to be 85-15. That's what I'm predicting. I'm predicting this is going to be 85-15, 85 to space, 15 to quantum. I'll give quantum 15. Wow, it's almost 70-30. We got some quantum bulls in the chat. Dude, I'm picking space over quantum. I'm picking space, dude. Like, I'm not picking quantum over space. Not yet. Dude, it's closer than I thought. 70-30. This is way closer than I thought. Imagine Buffett comes out and his secret stock, by the way, Pouncer right here, 146.50 is a quantum name. Like, could you imagine what would happen if Buffett says, yeah, we've been taking a position in IONQ? I mean, dude, that would be kind of crazy. Like, kind of freaking crazy. Trump's still not live yet. We are waiting on that stream, but he is still not live yet. Weeble, are we getting a move on Weeble? Getting a little bit of a move. All right, 3% up. Weeble is a little green. Oh, we got a new Vlad podcast that just dropped. This is from 20VC. There you go. Tokenizing OpenAI and SpaceX. We have a new Vlad. Dude, I think someone needs to do a counter on how many podcasts this guy's done this year. I think it's over like 30. Like legit over 30 different podcasts, which is kind of wild, bro. Like, they've embraced new media in such an incredible way. I did not sell my Weeble. I still have it. I have covered calls on it, but did not sell it. Are you breaking Buffett news? Hopefully one day I'll be able to break what Buffett's buying, but it's 70-30, folks. I think quantum's an incredible industry, and I think there's a lot of potential in there. I just personally would pick space because I can see it and understand it deeper. But some people that have done the DD on quantum, they think of it from a different perspective. Vitalik was asked in an interview over the weekend on if quantum will like ruin cryptography, which is like the basis behind, keeping your keys private and your Bitcoin custody through yourself. And he said he thinks it's possible, but he thinks it's a long time away. So there is that inherent fear, I think, that if quantum computing becomes so strong, then you can break through the keys on any Bitcoin address using quantum computers. That's what Skrelly thinks is like the best use case for it as well. And, the question is just if that ends up becoming reality. Smooth Mike, thank you for the $10 or for the $2 super chat. Google first $10 trillion company. Watch out. I don't know if Google gets the 10 trillion before Nvidia, but I don't think Google deserves to be at 1 or 2.2 trillion. I think Google reasonably should be closer to 2.7 to 3 trillion, which should be around that, 220 stock price range, but earnings is what we're going to have to see how this plays out. Amit, I'm on a plane back from Vietnam, Thailand. I use Grab a ton. Very, very good. Better than Uber experience. Extremely quick service. You need to get to Southeast Asia to check it out. I've heard that a lot from a lot of people that have been to the region. And the thing is, here's another argument around autonomous vehicles not ruining Grab's business. The cost per mile in Southeast Asia for Grab is like 20, 30 cents. The promise of robotaxi is trying to get the cost per mile to $1, right? That's where like the economics become exciting. There is zero incentive for robotaxis to meaningfully scale in Southeast Asia outside of the whole fact that there's like a lot of dense populations and it's going to be hard for it to work from an economic perspective, because the cost per mile is already so cheap because the cost of labor is dirt cheap. I mean, if you're an American and you have, you know, even $5,000 to spend on vacation in Southeast Asia, you're going to be living like a king. And the average Uber in America is like freaking 15, 20 bucks. In Southeast Asia, it's like maybe $3 to $4. Arnie was just there in Thailand a couple months ago, and he said that the prices were dirt cheap. So now that means their margins are not amazing, but again, that comes down to the regional consolidation and like overall them capturing a massive market share. But autonomous vehicles, the whole promise of them from a business perspective is the cost per mile goes down, and the cost per mile doesn't need to be that reduced if it's already down as much, right? So it's bigger in the United States because it actually has the ability to meaningfully create economic momentum, but in Southeast Asia, it's not as aggressive. Here's Dan Ives on CNBC this morning talking about some of these AI names. He did just upgrade Palantir to 160. Let's get his thoughts, and then we'll keep going from there.
I think maybe some of the legacy players like Dell. I think when it comes to software, and we're talking about with Microsoft, and ultimately what we're going to see with the hyperscalers, cloud, of course, led by names like Palantir, and cybersecurity is going to be a huge beneficiary because of these second, third derivatives playing out. And I just continue to view it's a golden age for tech. And this earnings season, I think this is the start. We've talked about tech stocks up 10 to 15% second half of the year.
I want to talk about cybersecurity. You have a new note out today. You're really bullish on cybersecurity. But if you look since the start of this quarter, cybersecurity has been lagging, actually. It's actually in the red. We use a couple ETFs that we're going to look at. The CIBR down about 4.5%. Similar story for the BUG. The HACK only down about 2.33%. What's going on with this weakness? You're bullish on it. We've heard a lot of analysts talk about not a golden age like you're saying, but just a big boost in cybersecurity following the Mideast tensions. Why are we seeing the sell-off when it comes to cyber?
I think it's really been a rotation, maybe some of the higher growth in software, some of these other AI plays. For cyber's maybe lagged here. I think the market's got it wrong. I think actually when you look at a subsector, cybersecurity could be the biggest subsector of the year for tech. Because what we're seeing, when you look at CrowdStrike, you look at Zscaler, Palo Alto, Checkpoint, as more moves to the cloud, cybersecurity is going to go hand in hand. So I think this is going to be one of those areas that actually significantly outperforms during earnings season.
We also have the quote unquote one big beautiful bill pass, supposed to be not a golden age. I'm kind of using some of your words, but it's a big boost when it comes to CapEx. Who do you see benefiting from that as we look throughout the rest of the year? What big tech player?
Palantir trying to go for 147, folks. She got to 146.88. Usually when she gets this close, she tends to break through. The volume looks like it's there, so maybe we get to see 147 a little bit later today.
Benefit from this boost in CapEx spending, or who do you see spending considerably more with the idea of this bonus depreciation?
Yeah, look, I think front and center is the massive AI Palantir. I think Palantir is going to be a huge beneficiary when you look at the bill. I think on big tech, Microsoft, Oracle, I think front and center in terms of ones that are going to benefit. And I think what you're really going to start to see here is more and more within the Beltway, there's going to be huge hyper spending on AI. And that it speaks on sovereigns and everyone else. And that's why even Jensen is significantly trying to get in pole position for what's going to be really a massive spending that's going to happen in the Beltway.
Does this change the investor view on CapEx spending? We've seen a couple quarters ago, investors, they kind of punish companies for spending too much. These recent quarters kind of just mixed reaction to boost in CapEx spending. How do investors view CapEx spending now with these changes to the tax laws?
Yeah, you want to see them aggressively on the offensive. I think right now the worry is, as a company, you don't want to see them spending too little because then they're on the outside looking in. This is an AI arms race, a Game of Thrones that's going on when it comes to AI. And you look at some of these changes when it comes to CapEx, you're going to see more acceleration. And I still think investors are underestimating what this CapEx cycle is going to look like, not even the rest of this year, but into next year. And that's why we believe this is a tech bull market that goes on for the next 2 or 3 years.
All right.
Look, if the CapEx doesn't slow down, which it doesn't look like there is any inclination that it will slow down. By the way, NVIDIA trying to get back to 164. So whatever semi-headline there was in the morning, it seems like it's kind of recovering right here across the board. If the CapEx is not slowing down, there's going to be a lot more demand for the semis, and then the derivative software plays, you can tell there's going to be more demand for them if there's more demand for the hardware, because the only value to the hardware is the software at the end of the day. So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where we've talked about it over and over again, but what year do we see the AI CapEx spend or the broader bull thesis around the AI trade go to zero? And I don't know, dude. I feel like it's at least 2 to 3 years away. And a lot of people felt in 2023 when it started to emerge that by the end of 2025 it would be over. But everything we're seeing from XAI, from OpenAI, from Anthropic, from Google, from Zuckerberg spending as much as he needs on talent, from Apple trying to rewire the entire organization to be more AI native with Siri. I mean, it's not slowing down. Oracle's earnings, Cisco, freaking CoreWeave and Nebula. I mean, it's just, it doesn't feel bubbly. It feels like it is going to be a massive revolution. And we aren't even in the age of robotics yet. Every single humanoid robot will have a GPU. Every single one of them. They will have an AI brain inside of them, and those AI brains will have to be way better than a LLM chatbot. They're going to have to be very sophisticated, which means there's going to be a lot of training that needs to be done. And there's going to need to be a lot of distribution to get that training to be meaningful inside of a robot to like either do your dishes or work inside of an Amazon warehouse. And like, that's a big challenge. That's a challenge that's not going to be solved in a couple of years. So the runway for this, I feel like, is just so large. And it's not going anywhere. Yeah, JMP Securities, or JPM. JMP, yeah, JMP Securities. Devin Ryan raised Robinhood from 70 to 125. So they are taking this price target much higher as well. I mean, like, that's bullish Robinhood as well. Just like the overall idea of a 5 to 10 year cycle on AI, that is going to create so much interest for investors to be thinking, hey, how can I allocate my capital to get a slice of this? And a lot of that will happen on Robinhood. I mean, just every sector of this economy gets a tailwind because of AI. Every single sector. And it's one of those things where it's also like, okay, so if every sector is going to catch a bid, and even the retail names, right? Like I didn't go into Levi's earnings. I got to go deeper into their call, but I'm curious if they freaking mentioned AI on productivity, because they had a 70% EPS beat. Like, to me, that doesn't happen just because demand is great. I would imagine there's some level of cost cutting they engaged in, potentially because their margins are getting better due to internal use cases of AI that are allowing them as a retailer to continue to be as profitable as they've ever been. And, the question is just going to be, how does that manifest itself into a variety of different names? S&P 500 is very close to going green. The live stream from the White House is up, but we don't have the stream pulled up yet. So, or they're not live yet. So we should see that. We should see that pretty soon. And then we will have Trump with the NATO secretary, the Secretary General. BMNR, is that one still moving? We hit 60 this morning. That stock, 49. Wow, that one right back down. Volatility, bro. This one's going to be volatile. If you bought at 59, you're probably upset right now that it's at 49. If you bought at 39, you're probably happy it's at 49. I mean, this is going to be up and down and up and down. And I mean, quite literally trying to trade this, if you're good at reading the charts, can be fun, but also just, it might be one of those micro strategies where you buy it and you hold it and you hope 10 years from now Ethereum's at like 20,000. And Tom Lee was right about the thesis. That might be kind of the way to play it out. I've seen different conflicting numbers. I've seen numbers that a BMNR is only at 4x NAV based on the fact that they've added another 250 million of Ethereum. 10x NAV, I think, was last week's numbers, but now that they added, basically they doubled their Ethereum. It's closer to 4.5x NAV, but you are paying, a healthy premium on net asset value. Are you trimming at all this summer? No, not really, dude. I've thought about it though, because like, I think everyone's thought about, okay, we're up a lot. Does it make sense to take some freaking profits and just like chill out? And I have nothing against it. I just think that we are setting up for a pretty strong end of year. And here's this clip I want to show you guys. This is RBC Capital this morning. They raised their price target to 6,250 after being at 6,700 and then going all the way down to 5,200. So it kind of gives you the like into the mind of a investment manager on the street and how they're trying to navigate all this. But I think we're closer to 6,500 towards the end of the year. And I think covered calls is the way to hedge against that, to collect some premium, but I don't think necessarily selling positions, unless they're like short-term trades, makes a ton of sense. Now, again, August 1st, that could be the black swan, and maybe this Robin at 100 goes to 80 if Trump is serious about putting on these tariffs. It is what it is. I really don't have any intention on selling my shares for like a long time, so I kind of would just see that as an opportunity, but I understand if people want to protect their cash, that could be something that they do. Here's RBC this morning on why they ended up raising their price target on the S&P.
Targets are madness.
It seems like you're following the market. Every time the market goes down, you give a new target where the market is. Now you're 62. What good is it?
No, well, look, I to be honest, a lot of strategists don't like doing price targets. I mean,
I wouldn't do them.
It's sort of an exercise in where is the market going to end up on December 31st of this year. And timing gets very, very tricky. I'll tell you what we were surprised coming off of the April 8th low. We have done in 3 months what we typically do in 9 months in terms of rebounding off of an extreme low. So if you go back and look at episodes like 2010, 2011, 2018, kind of these major 10% drawdowns or more, we should be at around 6,300 by the end of this year, not right now. If you just sort of look at the typical path that we travel. So markets are just processing things very, very quickly. And I'll tell you, Joe, when we went to the 5730 as our, I think we did that at the beginning of June, we were trying to communicate that we didn't think we were back to where we were to start the year, but we thought we were in a better place than April 8th. What I was surprised about in terms of talking to clients after that, and I got an earful from clients about this in June, they're done with 2025. They're looking ahead to 2026. And they think that they paid the price for any sort of economic or inflation potholes on April 8th. So when we changed our framework this morning on our target, and that's really what we did, a lot of our math was the same. We tried to bring in the impact of 2026 numbers into this year's forecast.
For people that talked about valuation at the beginning of the year and 2 or 3 great years that we, in 2023, 2024, they really wanted a shakeout. It's weird. This is a weird way that it happened with tariffs. There's always some excuse for it, but it cooled everything off. Some of the leaders that were probably overvalued or there were some air pockets underneath that all got sort of worked through. Now we might, if we had a decent earnings season right now, it might be all clear. Why stay at 6,250? Why not go back to 6,600 where you were at the beginning of the year?
So we don't think the world is the same as where we were back in January.
It might be better.
I don't necessarily know that it's better. I mean, if you just look through the lens of consensus GDP forecasts, they were up above 2% for this year at the beginning of this year. I think right now the number is like 1.5, 1.6%, and then looking again for 1.6% for next year. So the consensus, and this is not just my economist, but the consensus around the street thinks that we've taken something out. Also, if you have higher inflation levels, that's going to pressure your PE multiples a bit. One thing we talked about this morning.
What if you have lower inflation levels?
Well, look, I can get you some really, really cool numbers on S&P pricing for this year and next year if I take inflation down to 2%. Our economists think we're going to live more in kind of that upper 2% type number, a little bit below 3%. So nothing too crazy, but that does dampen your PE multiples a bit.
So the question here, and this is why Tom Lee's been kind of disagreeing with a lot of these street analysts, is does the S&P deserve a higher street multiple, a higher PE multiple? Right now we're at about 22 times. Tom Lee thinks 25 to 27 is reasonable. And, there's a lot of arguments why. The kind of like synopsis of his logic right here is that technology companies have massive operating leverage, and these companies are not only exponentially growing, but their ability to grow profitably is one of those things that can't be denied. And so we have a different market, or we have a different a set of companies that are leading this market, and therefore you get a higher PE. Now, what Lori just said from RBC is we can't justify PE expansion. NVIDIA going green, by the way, incredible. There she goes, NVIDIA trying to get where? Wow, 165. Amazing. RBC is saying we can't justify a multiple on the S&P expanding unless we have some other variable that goes down, aka inflation, right? We need to see something go down for us to expand the multiple to like give the breadth that the market needs. Tom Lee is not expecting inflation to be like below 2%. He already thinks it is below 2% if you take out housing. But let's say inflation stays sticky tomorrow when we get CPI at like 2.4, 2.5. Is that a reason to sell NVIDIA? Is that a reason to sell Palantir? Is that a reason to sell Hood? Is that a reason to sell Meta? And if it's not a reason to sell any of those names, then how much on aggregate does the market actually care about inflation? Which I think tomorrow is going to be one of the most interesting CPIs because it's expected the whisper number to be about 2.6, 2.7, to be hotter than expected because we have to deal with some of the tariffs. Let's say it is. Does the market care? So far, the market has not cared about anything in the past couple of weeks. Not Iran, Israel, not tariffs, not Brazilian tariffs, not Cambodia tariffs, not Moody's, not the bond markets, like nothing, not Japanese bonds getting to a 30-year high. So will they start caring about CPI? ABCL getting some love right here, up about 7%, or up 9% right here. Because if they don't care about CPI tomorrow, then I think and we have good earnings. I just think we're in a different market. And that's why the RBCs of the world that have these like $6,200 price targets, they might be way too bearish on a market that's beginning to expand its multiple because it doesn't need the sort of conventional macroeconomic metrics you need, like inflation, to be up or down in order for a multiple to expand. And that's ultimately how we're going to see this plays out. Here's some coverage on the EU and Mexico tariffs. Trump is not live yet, but he should be live presumably in the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Both the EU and Mexico did emphasize, they called it constant contact between the two sides. The EU said they're talking with the U.S. later today. We know there were talks over the weekend. So especially at lower levels at USTR, Commerce, and to some extent Treasury, we know that those are pretty much ongoing all the time. Ultimately, I think the president would like to get involved in these. What officials have been saying so far is that they continue to bring deals to the president, and then he finds ways to make them better. That's why they say we haven't seen more deals yet. So he's getting involved just at the end, but we do think the negotiations are pretty much constant at this point.
We got some breaking news on Meta, folks. Speaking of this AI revolution, that's not slowing down. Zuckerberg just said Meta is building several multi-gigawatt clusters, with the first called Prometheus coming online in 2026. Another, Hyperion, will scale up to 5 gigawatts over several years. He added Meta Superintelligence Labs will have industry-leading levels of compute and by far the greatest compute per researcher, and that they're building multiple more Titan clusters as well. Wow. Okay, let me see if he posted this on Threads. Let me see if oh yeah, he just posted it on Threads. He says, specifically, this is his quote from Threads, "For our superintelligence effort, I'm focused on building the most elite and talent-dense team in the industry. We're also going to invest hundreds of billions of dollars into compute to build superintelligence. We have the capital from our business to do this." Wow. We were just talking about CapEx, right? Where is Meta? There she goes, 7:30. She's trying to get to 7:30. There she goes. Bro, this is going to be one of the most exciting decades to be an investor and one of the most exciting Q2s we've seen probably in the past couple of years, because Meta, Google, Amazon, and NVIDIA, along with Microsoft, are going to put up ridiculous numbers when it comes to CapEx. NVIDIA being the beneficiary of all that CapEx, but these other companies basically outlining their AI plans. We know Google's been spending like crazy. They just spent $2.4 billion on Friday to license the windsurf technology after the OpenAI deal fell through. Meta's been investing billions in talent. I'm sure Zucks will spend some time talking about that on the earnings call. Amazon's thinking of investing another $4 billion into Anthropic, which is the parent company of Claude, which is one of the best coding LLMs on the planet. xAI getting ready to buy another 100,000 GPUs. I mean, Oracle, one client is going to do $30 billion in revenue for them. That is not a mistake. One customer they disclosed 2 weeks ago will be generating $30 billion of revenue for them starting fiscal year 2028. Some people say it's TikTok. We don't know what client it is, but nonetheless, the fact that they're able to generate these monster level contracts and deals, maybe it's SoftBank, maybe it's OpenAI, maybe it's something with Stargate. I mean, this is happening in front of us right now. It is an arms race for AI. Yeah, and this is why the RBCs of the world that have a $6,200 target based on their PE being at 22 versus 25, this might be why we need to raise our PEs. I mean, realistically, who's selling their stocks tomorrow because CPI comes in a little hotter than expected? Like, maybe some people will, maybe some algos will, but if you take Robinhood back to 80 or 75 on a hot CPI, I'm buying that dip. You take SoFi down to 14, 15, people are going to buy the dip. Take NVIDIA down anywhere near to 150. People are going to buy that dip. Like, I mean, it's just, I don't know if people are going to care that much as they did in 2023 on a hot CPI if we've got earnings growth. Trump's still not live yet. Trump is still not live, but the stream is up, so he should be live soon. My girlfriend will probably sell. Yeah, I mean, look, if you've been in the markets for a while, I think you're a little bit immune to some of the volatility up or down, and so you feel less pressure to sell. Also, if you've been in some of these names for a long, I mean, I told you guys about Louis, he might be watching right now, but he has 91,000 shares of NVIDIA at $2. I mean, he's not selling if CPI gets higher and NVIDIA goes to 140. I mean, he's probably holding on. And so I think a lot of people, are becoming desensitized to the idea that macro means that earnings growth doesn't matter as much. AMD right here, 145 as well. That one's recovering with NVIDIA. All the semis were down today. And they're starting to get a little bit more momentum. Wow, Zuckerberg is really multi-gigawatt clusters, 5 gigawatts over the next several years. Meta Superintelligence Labs will have industry-leading levels of compute. Dude, that is a lot of NVIDIA chips that they have still yet to buy. And by far the greatest compute per researcher. This dude is coming up with a metric that divides the amount of GPUs they have per researcher. Earnings per share, Bitcoin per share. He's doing compute per researcher. I mean, goodness freaking gracious, dude. Absolutely incredible. And the energy plays are obviously going to catch a bid on that as well. Where's Constellation right here? Constellation, that's recovering a little bit, but that's still down 1.2%. ABCL, I don't know what's the headline here, but people are piling in. That one's up 8.3. HIMS is up, I think, 5. HIMS is up 7. Is Rocket Lab still at 42? Rocket Lab still at 42. That's up 8. And ASTS is also up 4.5%. HBAR, that's another crypto I know a lot of you guys like. That one is at 24 cents. Steve called me last night and he was annoyed because I think he talked about this at 15 cents last week. Of course, he didn't buy it. But the reason he found out about it was because freaking Kevin O'Leary was on Fox News talking about it. And so he was like, we should buy this. I had no idea what it was, but that one up nicely from last week, 15 cents to 24 cents. So that one getting some momentum. All right, Trump is live. Here we go. Trump is live with the NATO secretary. Here we go.
We knew each other before, but Mark is the head of NATO, Mark Rutte, Secretary General of NATO, highly respected by everybody that knows him, but in particular the European $1 billion approximately on this war with Russia and Ukraine, and would like to see it end. It wasn't my war, it was Biden's war. It's not my war. I'm trying to get you out of it. And we want to see it end. And I'm disappointed in President Putin because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there. So based on that, we're going to be doing secondary tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. It's very simple. And they'll be at 100%. And that's the way it is. That can be more simple. It's just the way it is. I hope we don't have to do it. But regardless, we are going to be, we make the greatest military equipment in the world, whether it's missiles. You saw that recently in Iran, the way those planes flew in. They had every single 14 bombs hit every target. Then you had the helicopters shoot a total of 30 bombs, 30 missiles, and they hit every single, Marco, is that right? Every single piece, every single target. And it was, I guess, on a scale of 0 to 10, they say it was about a 15. That's how successful it was. That's how lethal it was, a word they like to use nowadays. But it was an amazing, well-organized attack that people in this country wanted to do for 24 years. You know, when we had the pilots in last week, they were saying, sir, we've been practicing this for 24 years, meaning people, not them, but other people that are a little older now. But they too, and you were the one that let us do it. But we've been practicing it 3 to 4 times a year for 22, 24 years, because they always knew they had to stop Iran from doing what they were doing, which is trying to come up with a nuclear weapon, a nuclear bomb. And we did it very successfully. And we make the best equipment, the best missiles, the best of everything. The European nations know that. And we've made a deal today, and I'm going to have Mark speak about it, but we've made a deal today where we are going to be sending them weapons and they're going to be paying for them. The United States will not be having any payment made. We're not buying it, but we will manufacture it and they're going to be paying for it. Our last meeting of a month ago was very successful in that they agreed to 5%, which is more than $1 trillion a year. So they have a lot of money, and these are wealthy nations. They have a lot of money, and they want to do it. They feel very strongly about it, and we feel strongly about it too. But we're in for a lot of money, and we don't want to do anymore, and we can. But we make the best, and we're going to be sending the best to NATO, and in some cases to maybe, at Mark's suggestion, if we go to Germany, where they're going to send early on missiles, and they'll be replaced, and NATO is going to take care of it. It's going to be coordinated by NATO, and they're going to work very much with Matt Whitaker, who's right here, who's a great ambassador, and Matt's going to be coordinating. You better do a good job, Matt.
I will.
But Matt's going to coordinate. He's a very talented guy. He's going to coordinate everything. So in a nutshell, we're going to make top-of-the-line weapons, and they'll be sent to NATO. NATO may choose to have certain of them sent to other countries where we can get a little additional speed, where the country will release something and it'll be mostly in the form of a replacement. And I'd like to have Mark, and again, just a highly respected, pretty young guy for having had the career that he's had, because he had an amazing career before going to NATO. So, and we spent a lot of time together over the last couple of months. And if you could say a few words.
Absolutely. No, Mr. President, dear Donald, this is really big. This is really big. You called me on Thursday that you had taken a decision. And the decision is that you want Ukraine what it needs to have to maintain, to be able to defend itself against Russia, but you do want Europeans to pay for it, which is totally logical. And this is building on the tremendous success of the NATO summit. The 5%, but also the decision to keep Ukraine strong and the decision to increase our defense industrial production. So based on that, that was Europe stepping up. This is again Europeans stepping up. So I've been in contact with many countries. I can tell you that at this moment, Germany massively, but also Finland and Denmark and Sweden and Norway, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Canada, they all want to be part of this. And this is only the first wave. There will be more. So what we will do is work through the NATO systems to make sure that we know what Ukrainians need, so that we can make packages. Of course, in a way, we discussed it this morning with Pete Hasset at the Pentagon, in a way that, of course, the US will keep on its stockpiles necessary to defend this country. That's absolutely clear. But it will mean that Ukraine can get its hands on really massive numbers of military equipment, both for air defense, but also missiles, ammunition, etc., etc. So if I was Vladimir Putin today and hear you speaking about what you were planning to do in 50 days, and this announcement, I would reconsider whether I should not take negotiations about Ukraine more seriously than I was doing at the moment, if I was Vladimir Putin. But when I'm Ukraine, I think this is really great news for them. So I really want to thank you for that. And it means Europeans paying for it. And again, I mentioned all these countries, we will deal with that. And exactly as you said, it might also mean that countries will move equipment fast into Ukraine, and then the US later backfilling it because speed is of the essence here. So really, thank you. This is important.
You did a great job. That's a really great job. We've been very successful in settling wars. You have India, Pakistan, you have Rwanda and the Congo. That was going on for 30 years. India, by the way, and Pakistan would have been a nuclear war within another week, the way that was going. That was going very badly. And we did that through trade. I said, we're not going to talk to you about trade unless you get this thing settled. And they did. And they were both great leaders. And they were great. But Rwanda and the Congo, that was going on for 30 years. And at least 7 million people killed, and killed with a lot of pretty rough weapons like machetes, heads chopped off, going on for many years. You couldn't even get near the countries. Nobody wanted to get near. It's so frightening. And we got that one solved. Serbia, Kosovo, got that solved. That was going to be one that was going to happen. And again, that was something I use. I use trade for a lot of things, but it's great for settling wars. That was really very important. Marco is working very hard with everybody here on the Strip, the Gaza Strip. I call it the Gaza Strip, one of the worst real estate deals ever made. They gave up the oceanfront property, one of the worst deals ever made. But it was supposed to bring peace, and it didn't bring peace. It brought the opposite. But we're doing pretty well on Gaza. Steve Witkoff is here, and I think we could have something fairly soon to talk about. And we solved another one, that we just seem to have, Armenia and Azerbaijan. It looks like that's going to come to a conclusion, successful conclusion. We worked on Egypt with a next door neighbor who is a good neighbor. They're friends of mine, but they happened to build a dam which closed up water going into a thing called the Nile. I think if I'm Egypt, I want to have water in the Nile. And we're working on that one. It's a problem, but it's going to get solved. They built one of the biggest dams in the world, a little bit outside of Egypt. You know about that? You've been hearing about that one. And that turned out to be a big problem. I don't know. I think the United States funded the dam. I don't know why they didn't solve the problem before they built the dam. But it's nice when the Nile River has water. It's a very important source of income and life. It's the life of Egypt. And to take that away is pretty incredible. But we think we're going to have that solved very quickly. So we do good. The only one we haven't been able to get to yet is Russia. And I'm not happy. And I will tell you that Ukraine wants to do something. Again, it's a war that should have never started. If I were president, it never would have happened. I used to speak to President Putin about it a lot. It was the apple of his eye. But once I saw what was going on, I said, they're gonna have a war here. I was outside. Election was rigged. And I was outside looking in. And I said, that thing's going to be a war. Couldn't believe it, because what Biden said was the exact opposite of what should have been said. And it started, and it's a real mess. We're losing, I guess they're losing 5,000 or 6,000 people a day. It's actually now more. I was saying 5,000 a day. It's actually more now. Mostly soldiers, but a lot of people in cities and towns that are getting blown up to. It's a horrible war, and it should be stopped. And so if it's not done, if we don't have an agreement in 50 days, that's what we're doing, secondary tariffs. And they're biting. And I hope we don't get to the point where we do, but I've been hearing so much talk. It's all talk. It's all talk, and then missiles go into Kiev and kill 60 people. It's got to stop. That's got to stop. But the purpose of this is to say that there's a very big deal we've made. This is billions of dollars worth of military equipment is going to be purchased from the United States, going to NATO, et cetera. And that's going to be quickly distributed to the battlefield. Ukraine will take it up. And, say what you want about Ukraine. When the war started, they had no chance. And they still would have had no chance if the equipment, they had the best equipment, because we do make the best planes and missiles, and we make the best military equipment in the world by far. We have new things coming out that are beyond belief. And I'm very excited about the Golden Dome. It's going to give us very strong protection. We've already started that. But they had courage, because somebody has to use that equipment. And they fought with tremendous courage, and they continue to fight with tremendous courage. But they don't have, they're losing on equipment. And Russia's really taken a very positive, very, very strong. I mean, what they've done the last couple of weeks.
Without military reasons. So what they are doing is 700 drones a day, missiles, bombing cities. This is not because of military goals. It is just creating panic, keeping people out of their sleeps, hitting towns. It's really terrible, and it is meaning a lot of people lose their lives, but also the infrastructure, whole cities being.
Well, they're wiping out the electric. It's going to take years to rebuild it. That's going to be the next problem, because, but that's going to take a long time. Many of the cities are knocked down to the to the ground. Many of the people have left, but many have stayed. I don't know. They actually stay. And most have stayed, actually. It's incredible that they stay, and knowing that a missile could be hitting your apartment house, and your apartment house that you're sitting in could collapse on top of you. And they do very heavy construction. They don't use rebar. They do very thick concrete construction. Those are heavy buildings, big buildings and heavy buildings, and they collapse like they're made out of paper. It's unbelievable to see this happening with people, so many people being killed. So we think we're going to make progress, and we hope we're going to make progress. In the meantime, we're going to get you good service on what you need. And then we really became friendly with NATO this last meeting. You know, we went from 2% to 5%, which everyone said was not even a possibility. They weren't paying 2%. Many of them were paying much less than 2%.
But even those, since you became president, all committed to the 2% before the summit. And now collectively we committed to the 5%.
That's right, they did. And they've been very good. And I think I made a lot of friends over there. We had a couple of days of very intensive talks. And they're great people. They're leaders of countries. Many of them great countries, some of them smaller countries, but for the most part, I'd say very solid, strong countries, and very successful. Some of them are among the most successful countries in the world. So that's the story. We hope that's going to have an impact on Vladimir Putin, and we hope it's going to have an impact on Ukraine also. We want to make sure that Ukraine does what they have to do. All of a sudden, they may feel emboldened, or maybe they don't want. You know, this is a very difficult situation.
Ukraine wants a peace deal.
I think so.
And they will stay committed to that. There's no doubt. They want it. But the Russians have to become.
They have to continue to want it, though.
Yeah, I agree. But you and I will make sure of that.
All of a sudden, they get no.
You and I will make sure of that.
We'll make sure. I feel confident that they will do what has to be done. Plus, we have certain parameters that both sides know, and we already know what should be done. So I think that's going to be it's going to be very strong. We want everlasting peace. Any questions, please? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. What was the tipping point for you in making this decision? Was it a conversation with President Putin? Was it a piece of intelligence? And why are you giving 50 more days?
I think I think it's a very short period of time. I think, don't forget, I've just really been involved in this for not very long. And it wasn't initial focus. This is a Biden war. This is a Democrat war, not a Republican or Trump war. This is a war that would have never happened. It shouldn't have happened. A lot of people being killed. When the final numbers come in, you're going to see a lot more people are being killed in this war than you think, than you've been writing about. It's a very deadly war. They're all bad, but this is a very deadly war. The numbers are going to be far greater. When an apartment house comes down, and they say 2 people were slightly injured. No, many people were killed. And those numbers will be at some point accurately reported. So far, they're not. It's a deadly war. I think that you're just going to see, I think you're going to see strong movement. I hope so. I hope so.
And what about
the secondary tariffs are very, very powerful.
What about the tariffs that the Republicans in the House and the Senate have ready? Those were 500%. Why are you doing 100%?
Well, the Republicans are moving very strongly in the Senate, giving us total control of it. But I'm not sure we need it, but it's certainly good that they're doing it. And Lindsey Graham's working hard. The whole John Thune, all of them, they're all working hard. And they're in coordination with Mike Johnson, Speaker in the House. And I think they've actually crafted a pretty good piece of legislation. It's probably going to pass very easily. And that includes Democrats. And there's some little tweaks, but I don't want to say I don't need it because I don't want them to waste their time. It could be very useful. We'll have to see. But we can do secondary. We're probably talking about 100% or something like that.
So can you clarify?
We can do secondary tariffs without the Senate, without the House. But what they're crafting also could be very good.
So are you suggesting then that the Congress should move forward with those sanctions, the 500%, and that your 100 would be a separate additional package?
Yeah, I mean, the 500 is, sort of meaningless after a while because at a certain point it doesn't matter. It's not going to be, it's 100. 100 is going to serve the same function. But I have it at 100%. They may have it. I don't know what they're going to end up with. They may have it at 100 too. They may have it at 500. But they're doing some good work in the House, and I think in the House and the Senate. And as you know, they're coordinated. and they can have it done quickly. They said they'll have it as quickly as I need it. So we'll see. We're talking to him. In fact, John Thune's coming over later on to talk.
Did you call for it yet?
Yeah, he's gonna come over.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is it your view that Vladimir Putin mischaracterized his dedication to? Is it your view that Vladimir Putin did not clarify his intention to a peace deal? And what happens now in the next phase? Is there?
We're going to see. I mean, we're going to go for a period of time. Maybe he'll start negotiating. And I think I felt, I don't know about you, Mark, but I felt that we had a deal about 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, still talking about.
And he didn't send serious people to the negotiations. So I remember that you were able, with Marco Rubio and with Steve Witkoff, to get these talks going in Istanbul.
Yep.
I remember I was myself in Turkey for NATO business in May. And we really put pressure on the Ukrainians to send a senior team into Istanbul, and they did. But then the Russians came up with this historian explaining history of Russia since 1250.
We thought, and I thought, we should have had a deal done a long time ago. But it just keeps going on and on and on. And every night people are dying. A lot of Russian soldiers are dying, by the way. And a lot of Ukrainian soldiers too. But a lot of Russian soldiers are dying.
100,000 Russian soldiers since 1st of January. Since January. 100,000 Russian soldiers dead since January. So if anybody in Moscow is listening to this, again, 100,000 dead Russians since January. This is what President Putin is doing at the moment.
Yeah, please.
Will these be Patriot missiles specifically, or Patriot batteries that you're planning? And when do you
Everything. It's Patriots. It's all of them. It's a full complement with the batteries.
And when do you expect them to arrive in Ukraine, sir?
Well, we're going to have some come very soon, within days, actually. Because a couple of the countries that have Patriots are going to swap over and will replace the Patriots with the ones they have. And Matt will coordinate with NATO. But so it's going to be, they're going to start arriving very soon.
And this afternoon, Boris Pistorius, the German defense minister, is visiting Pete Hasset, Secretary of Defense, and we'll discuss also, I think, on this whole Patriot thing. Norway is involved, so that's on the Patriots, but this whole deal is also about missiles or ammunition, so it's broader than the Patriots.
We have one country that has 17 Patriots getting ready to be shipped. They're not going to need them for them. So we're going to work a deal where the 17 will go, or a big portion of the 17 will go to the war site.
Mr. President.
That can be done very quickly.
Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Yeah, please.
could this transaction with NATO be viewed as a step towards achieving peace, letting Putin know that now Zelensky has a little bit more powerful tools in his tool chest, and maybe that brings him to the table to achieve peace? So I know that you wanted to do that.
Brian, that's what we've been saying. I think you might have expressed it better if you wanted to.
I'm just
That's
trying
exactly
to
what.
give us a summary.
That was a nice summary. I think he's done better than us. He's a very good guy. I can tell you that. But no, it's well said. Yeah, I think this is a chance at getting peace, or it's just going to be the same thing. I have to tell you, Europe has a lot of spirit for this war. A lot of people, when I first got involved, I really didn't think they did, but they do. And I saw that a month ago, and then you were there. Most of you, many of you were there. The level of esprit de corps, spirit that they have is amazing. They really think it's a very, very important thing to do, or they wouldn't be doing it. Look, they're agreeing to, they're paying for everything. We're not paying anymore. We have an ocean separating us. I said, we have a problem. We make the best stuff, but we can't keep doing this. And Biden should have done this years ago. He should have done it from the beginning, but he didn't. He didn't know he was there. This guy, what a horrible job they did for this country. And I just hope between the border and this and so many other inflation, what a horrible administration. The worst administration in history, in my opinion. That's not my opinion. I think it's everybody's opinion. But this is something that shouldn't have happened, and we're going to see if we can end it.
If I can follow up.
I do want to make one statement. Again, I said it before. This is not Trump's war. We're here to try and get it finished and settled and whatever. Because nobody wins with this. This is a loser from every standpoint.
From day
This
one.
was Biden, and this was other people. And it's a very sad. It's a very sad situation. This gentleman's doing a great job. I think he's going to get it, and Matt and everybody else that's working on it. I think you'll get this thing over with. Hopefully.
Mr. President, you've praised European countries today as standing up for Ukraine, as being strong. Will you allow them to continue to negotiate tariffs lower than 30% before August 1st, or is the deal set at this point?
What does that mean? You mean you're talking about the tariffs?
On trade, on tariffs.
You're back on tariffs. You're on a more friendly tariff, right? A little bit more friendly tariff.
Perhaps.
No, we're going to be talking to people. We have, I watched the show this morning. They were talking about, well, when's he going to make the deal? The deals are already made. The letters are the deals. The deals are made. There are no deals to make. They would like to.
What? Wait, what? What does he say? The letters are the deals?
Do a different kind of a deal, and we're always open to talk. We are open to talk, including to Europe.
Okay, so that's him saying, those are my final offers. If they want to come back and negotiate, they're open to. But if not, that's going to be the implemented tariffs on August 1st. I mean, maybe he's BSing right here. Maybe he's just saying it to say it. But if not August 1st, that's going to be the next day that I think the market has to start at least somewhat getting concerned about to see if tariffs actually go into place.
In fact, they're coming over. They'd like to talk.
Mr. President, is there any concern about the U.S. stockpiles? There was a pause in delivery of weaponry to Ukraine in order to evaluate, apparently, the U.S. stockpiles. What came out of that?
Evaluation. I mean, this was a very big, what we're talking about today is a very, very big day. And what Pete was doing, and me too, I knew what Pete was doing, was evaluation, because we knew this was going to happen. And now we actually announced it. They voted on it. It's all been done. So obviously that has a big impact on, when you say pause, obviously you're not going to be doing things if you don't know what's going to happen here. But we were pretty sure this was going to happen. So we did a little bit of a pause. But this is a very big event today. This is something
Mr. President, if Putin escalates further, how far are you willing to go in response?
In what?
How far are you willing to go if Putin were to escalate, send more bombs in the coming days?
Don't ask me a question like that. How far? I don't know. I want to get the war settled. They're not Americans that are dying in it. And, I have a problem, and JD has a problem. It's a stance that he's had for a long time. They're not Americans dying, but there are a lot of people dying, and on something that should be able to be settled. And we all agree with that. This group of people, we want to defend our country, but, ultimately, having a strong Europe is a very good thing. It's a very good thing. So I'm okay with that. Yeah, please, in the back.
Yeah, is there a ceiling on what the Europeans are willing to pay for? And it sounds like, are you ruling out the U.S. paying for from additional weapons through drawdown authority?
Shall I try to answer that? Because basically what the president is saying, that he's willing, of course, take in consideration what the U.S. needs itself. So it's not that you can have a shopping list and you can order whatever you want, because the U.S. has to make sure that the U.S. keeps his hands on what the U.S. needs also to keep the whole world safe, because in the end, you are the police agent of the whole world. You're the most powerful nation on earth, the most powerful military on earth. But given that, the U.S. has decided to indeed massively supply Ukraine with what is necessary through NATO. Europeans 100% paying for that. And what we have been doing over the last couple of days is talking with countries, and I just mentioned the ones who in the first wave immediately said, we want to chip in. And then you are really talking about big numbers. Take Germany visiting today. They're really talking about big numbers.
Can we get some clarity?
I will say that I spoke with Germany, spoke with most of the larger countries, and they are really enthusiastic about this. They want to, and they're willing to go very far. I will tell you, as per your question, how far would I go? They want to go very far. They don't want this to happen. That's why I think from Putin's standpoint, it would really be good. He gets the country's economy is doing very poorly, and he's got to get his economy back. He's got to save his economy. He could save his country in a sense, but the economy can destroyed a lot of countries over the years. He wants to get that economy back. And, he's got a great country for trading and other things. If they could use the assets instead of war, he's got some tremendous potential. That's what I would say.
How did you deliver this news to Putin, sir?
Say?
How did you tell Putin this was coming?
I speak to him a lot about getting this thing done. And I always hang up and say, well, that was a nice phone call. And then missiles are launched into Kiev or some other city. And I said, it's strange. And after that happens 3 or 4 times, you say, the talk doesn't mean anything. My conversations with him are always very pleasant. I say, isn't that a very lovely conversation? And then the missiles go off that night. I go home, I tell the First Lady, I spoke to Vladimir today. We had a wonderful conversation. She said, oh, really? Another city was just hit. So it's like, look, he's, I don't want to say he's an assassin, but he's a tough guy. It's been proven over the years. He's fooled a lot of people. He fooled Bush. He fooled a lot of people. He fooled Clinton, Bush, Obama, Biden. He didn't fool me. But what I do say is that at a certain point, ultimately talk doesn't talk. It's got to be action. It's got to be results. And I hope he does it. It's potentially such a great country to be wasting so many people on this and the money. And look at what's happened to his economy. Look at what's happened. So,
And with the threat in 50 days,
Yeah.
the economy will be hit very hard.
I mean, look, I hope he's going to do it. He knows the deal. He knows what a fair deal is. If there is such a thing as a fair deal, there's no winners here. This is a loser. This is a loser. And I dealt with him from the beginning. It wouldn't have happened, but I will say Ukraine was the apple of his eye. We talk about it. It was the apple of his eye, but it wasn't going to happen. And he understood that. It wasn't going to happen. And then I noticed, after I was out, I noticed soldiers forming at the border. And then I heard horrible, stupid things being said from the other side. And I said, they're really handling it very, very wrong. It's a shame. Yeah.
And I say, and there's one thing, and that is about President Trump, because you came in office in January. On the 12th of February, you had your first phone call with Putin. I think you did exactly what I hoped you would do. That is breaking the deadlock, starting the conversation, because you have to test him. I know Putin very well from the days when I was Prime Minister in the Netherlands. You have to test him. And you did this. And you really gave him a chance to be serious, to get to the table, to start negotiations. Steve Witkoff, Marco Rubio, we all tried to help you. But you've now come to a point where you say, well, hey.
We actually thought we had probably 4 times a deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you would call and you would say, this looks good.
Yeah.
And then the deal wouldn't happen because bombs would be thrown out that night and you'd say, we're not making any deals. It was like.
But you breaking the deadlock was crucial because you had to start that process. And you were the only one who was able to do that.
I think we'll get it done.
Do you think he's reasonable enough to negotiate an end to
I think
this?
we're going to get it done. I think, look, this is a very powerful situation. You have very wealthy countries buying the best equipment in the world. And we have the best equipment in the world. We make equipment like no other. Our submarines, nuclear submarines, are so powerful. They're most powerful weapon ever built. And we have the best in the world by 20 years behind, 25 years behind us. We have the greatest equipment anywhere in the world. I just hope we don't have to use it. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. On a separate topic here, President Biden, of all people, spoke to the New York Times over the weekend. He did not speak to them on the record during his time in office at all, but he spoke to them recently. And he defended his use of the auto pen and said that he signed off on every decision. But at the same time, the Times reports that he did not individually approve each name for the categorical pardons that applied to large numbers of people. What are your take on that? Any new revelations from that?
Well, I mean, you're talking about the auto pen. Look, the auto pen, I think, is maybe one of the biggest scandals that we've had in 50 to 100 years. This is a tremendous scandal. And I know the people on the other side of see that desk, that Resolute desk? Unfortunately, he used it before me. But, we have our choice of 7 desks. They're all beautiful, but I chose the Resolute, and so did he, unfortunately. But the people on the other side of the Resolute desk, I know them. Lisa, the whole group, and they're no good. They're sick people. And I guarantee you he knew nothing about what he was signing. I guarantee it. So they're going to figure it out, and we'll see what happens. But to me, the auto pen, you elected president. You know what the auto pen is supposed to do? Sign thousands of letters from young people that write. We get thousands of letters a week, Susie, right? Thousands. I mean, tens of thousands sometimes. I look at a room, there's a room where we have many, many people working, responding and sending letters back. That's what an auto pen's supposed to be. To write to a young 7-year-old boy that writes to the president and he wants to be president someday and he loves America. That's what the auto pen's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be for signing major legislation and all other things. No, the auto pen, and I doubt he knew. I doubt they even spoke to him about it. I think they had, it's called the freewheeling auto pen. Like Biden was never for open borders. Biden was never for transgender for everyone. So I don't think I think the radical left people that took over the White House. And if I didn't win, our country was finished. You know, when I was in, and I said this a couple of times, I hope I don't bore you with it, but when I was in Saudi Arabia, I was in Qatar, I was in UAE, and then I met with all of your leaders, including you, a great leader. He's now the leader of many countries, not just. No. But I met with a lot of leaders over the last 2 months in the Middle East and all of the NATO countries. And I will tell you, they had one common phrase. They thought America was dead 1 year ago. And today they say, and they all say it, and I hope you'll back me up on this, but they say now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. It is. Look at our numbers. Look at the numbers we made. You see, we made $25 billion last month. We didn't make that for years. The tariffs are kicking in. The economy is very strong. Even though we have a Fed person who's terrible, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing, but that's all right. We blow through interest rates. We're doing so well, we blow through it. Be nice because people would be able to buy housing a lot easier. But think of it. We thought your country was dead, and they were dealing with China because they were really going to China, but not anymore. But we thought your country was dead, and now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. So we've done a really good job, and it's an honor to have this man. This man is a star, and he's going to be dealing with another one of my stars, Matt, and you're going to do a great job, Matt Whitaker. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. We got nothing from that, folks. NVIDIA's going green, though, 165. We got pretty much nothing from that. There were no questions about stuff that I think, people really care about. I mean, the most he said was that we're going to try to get a deal with Russia. He's been saying that for the past couple months. It is nice to see solidarity between NATO and the U.S. So I will say that was really good to see. And the more solidarity we have between the U.S. and NATO should be a good partnership, along with NATO spending more of their GDP on defense. So all of that is good. It's just that none of that is new, right? We all kind of knew that. I mean, Trump literally was at the summit 2 weeks ago in the Netherlands talking to the same guy. So it's not like the press conference they did over there is any different from what they just did right now. But the only thing we got there from tariffs was that August 1st will be the tariff deadline when everything gets implemented. And Trump says those letters are his official quote unquote deals. I imagine he's posturing because he wants to get actual deals. But outside of that, nothing different we got from Trump. AMD right here, 146, SoFi 21, S&P green on the day, holding green. Palantir, she's trying for 147. She got to 146.99 a couple minutes ago and then got rejected, 146.74. So it looks like she wants it. Tesla right here, 314, kind of going flat on the day. NVIDIA going green, 165. Hoodie holding 100, which is very nice to see. Google right here, 180. Grab above 5. Reddit, 148. CoreWeave is up. I mean, you got a lot of the semis that were down in the morning coming back. And then you got the broader market basically going green right here. That's pretty much what we got. That is pretty much what we got. Do we get any new tariff numbers today? No, but tomorrow we get CPI. We get tariff numbers at the end of July or like the beginning of August to see how much we collected in July. June numbers were about 27 billion, which was pretty good. Obviously, JPAL thinks that's not the best because, implications might be that inflation goes higher. But we're going to get CPI, PPI soon this week and core PCE to kind of figure out what the implications are on inflation. Wow, Bitcoin's getting a hit a little bit. So it was at 123 in the morning. Now it's at 119.7. Still incredible based on where it was last week. But it is below that 120 mark, even though we got to 120 last night. Where is BMNR? That stock is down, but up. It's down from 60, but up 15%. BT is flat. It's up 2%. It was up a little bit more than that. And then SBET, which was up 25%, is now up 20%. So down a little bit, but still up on the day. Palantir, we got 10 cents, folks. She's trying. She is trying right here. 5 cents. Is she going to do it here? I think she does it there. I think she does it. 146.98. Wow, they're really making her work for that. Let me check resistance. I don't think it's a lot. I think it's like 25,000 shares or something. Okay, some of you guys see 147. I don't see it yet, so it should be getting there soon if you guys are seeing it on different brokerages. 147, I'm still looking at resistance of 48,000 shares. 48,000 shares. On Webull, did it hit? Let me check. Rocket Lab, by the way, still at 42. On Webull, it didn't hit either. Webull has 146.99 and Legend has 146.99. So you guys might have seen it on Schwab or Fidelity, but if you guys saw it, then that means we should be hitting it soon. I don't know why Webull's up 5%. I don't know, but it is up about 5%. It tapped it on IBKR. That means it should be tapping it everywhere pretty soon if we can get there. Schwab showed it. Okay, so it should be showing up soon. Dude, 147, not too bad. We went all the way back down to 129, but it picked up a bid. All right, there she is. There she goes, 147. Those are my seal claps again. Let's ring the bell, folks. We got Rocket Lab 42 and Palantir back to 147. Not too bad, baby. Not too bad. All-time high is 148.22. 148.22. 148 resistance is 49,000 shares. 49,000 shares. My Rocket Lab position is 2,100 shares at 22.95. 2,100 shares at 22.95. Palantir right here, 147.08. It's holding above 147. Maybe we retest 148 later in the day. It's kind of an outlier here. Everything else is either flat or slightly red. S&P just going green. Robinhood trying to hold above 100. Tesla went from 322 down to 314. NVIDIA 165. But Palantir making the move up 3.5% on the day. My average cost on my grab spreads is 34 cents. I have the 750-10 call debit spread for Jan 2027. My average cost is 34 cents on those spreads. It says the spreads are worth 30 cents right now, but if you actually try to get them filled at 30 cents, you're not going to get them filled at 30 cents. You're probably going to have to bid anywhere near 35 to 40. So the spread is mispriced right now because like it's so far out into the future, but 30 cents I think is going to be very hard to get filled at these levels. I'm not trimming my Rocket Lab. Nope, I'm holding on. I bought it a while ago because I thought it was a mini SpaceX, and so I'm holding on to it. Nothing too crazy. While Trump was talking, though, Grok and XAI announced a $200 million DoD contract, and so did Anthropic and OpenAI. So basically, the DoD is giving out a $200 million contract to XAI, which is Grok, Anthropic, and OpenAI. And Palantir right here, 147.20. The goal is for the 200 million to be a ceiling. So it's not 200 million flat out, but it's a ceiling towards what they could win inside of the contract, up to 200 million. And those foundation models are now going to be implemented throughout the DoD with OpenAI, Anthropic, and XAI. So very exciting stuff for those companies. Grok also announced Grok for Business while Trump was talking. Grok for Government. And I'll pull this up right here. But that seems like, one of the other cases they're going to make to investors right here for why they should continue to expand. Announcing Grok for Government, a suite of products that makes our frontier models available to the United States government. We are especially excited about 2 new partnerships. 1, a new contract from the DoD, that's $200 million. And then 2, our products being available to purchase via the General Services Administration schedule. This allows every federal government department, agency, or office to purchase XAI products. We're hiring mission-driven engineers who want to join the cause. So you do have some of that momentum coming for these contracts across the board. We got some red candles just hitting everything. I don't know if there's any news right here, but pretty much everything AMD, SoFi, Google, Grab, Tesla, Nvidia, Palantir. Well, Palantir's still holding on, not getting hit by a red candle. Robinhood getting hit by a little bit of it. Rocket Lab just went below 42. Now it's right back at 42. So you got some red candles across the board. It's about 11:55, so people are getting ready for lunch. But Palantir right here at 147. Dude, not bad. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Seeing some momentum. My Rocket Lab covered calls are under pressure. And yeah, I would imagine that some of those covered calls will get under pressure. Now, again, Rocket Lab's expensive here, so you could wait it out and just roll it at the same price and kind of, wait for it to correct. Or you could roll it out a year. And, if you're at a 35 covered call, if you want to pay a little debit to get to 55 but protect your shares, I don't think that's crazy either. Palantir right here, 147.30. She's not trying to slow down, dude. I mean, she looks like the volume's there for 148. 148 again, 50,000 shares. That's not a lot for Palantir. Bitcoin is below 120. And then Meta, we saw that news right before Trump went live. Again, Zuckerberg is just not stopping. He said Meta Superintelligence Labs will have industry-leading levels of compute and by far the greatest compute per researcher. The fact that they're calculating compute per researcher is insane. They're building several multi-gigawatt clusters, and one of their clusters will scale up to 5 gigawatts over the next several years. So Zucks, OpenAI, XAI, Anthropic, they're not stopping. They are not stopping in this arm race for AI. Oh, Kramer called Palantir a meme today. There you go. That is our action, because I don't have a reason for why Palantir's up today. There's no news or anything. There's your reason, folks. This is what we need him to do. When he gets bullish, he needs to chill out. But when he calls it a meme, that's like absolutely perfect. It's exceptional for Palantir. It is super freaking bullish when he says it's a meme. 146.92 right here on Palantir. Nvidia just below 165. S&P kind of flat, but still green. And then Tessie 314. Grab 504, and then Google 180, AMD 146, SoFi 2116, Robinhood just below 100. Hopefully we get that $100 close. And then Palantir just below 147. All right, folks, that is it for the day. We'll be back on the close. Let's end it out with word of the day. And we'll be back in a few hours. Word of the day is, there's no way I can get this wrong, heyday.
Heyday.
A stage or period of greatest strength or success. Oh, I've heard this word before. In its heyday, the old amusement park was packed with crowds every weekend. The Roman Empire in its heyday under Augustus stretched across 3 continents and boasted unmatched engineering feats. I don't even know if we've seen the heyday for AI. I don't know, dude. This AI momentum that we're seeing is incredible. I think earnings are going to be kind of wild if Zucks is announcing all this spend before earnings. And I think the best is yet to come for the heyday of the entire AI ecosystem. So there you go. Bounce right here, 146.74. Thank everybody for being here. We are done for the day. We don't have any earnings today, but tomorrow earnings begin with all the big banks. So we'll do a little bit of a preview today on the close on what I'm expecting for the banks tomorrow. And if the banks give us the goods and then tech companies kind of reciprocate going into the week after this week, so next week, we should start to see some momentum. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. I'll be back at 3:45 on the market close. Thank you, everybody. See you guys in a few hours. Bye, everyone.